Hello and welcome back to the SMITE Pro League. Our first set of the day is done, and before we move into our second set, I gotta remind you of our good friends over at Alienware, who are providing the computers for not just us here on the desk, these lovely laptops that we get to use, but the gear that our players are using in the booths, at home, and even for our production to use back behind the scenes as well. So make sure that you go to smitegame.com/Alienware, use code AWSMITE09 to see the great discounts and offers that Alienware has to offer to you, the fans at home. That way you guys can also get your hands on some of the great gear that our pros and that we here in studio are getting the opportunity to use. Thank you so much to Alienware for coming back for Season 9 of the SMITE Pro League, empowering not just us, but also our players here in studio and at home. Game number one, or set number one of our day, I should say, was a full three-game barn burner. Make sure you go back and check out the match between the Camelot Kings and the Dragons that took place. But now moving into our second of the day, I'm J-Mac. I got Trelly joining to help me out on this one. We got the Oni Warriors and the Tartarus Titans, which should be a very interesting matchup considering the change-ups we've seen to the Titans roster just as of recent, and maybe even some of the falters of the Warriors as of recent times too, Trelly.
Yeah, I've been waiting to see the Tartarus Titans heat up with this new addition of Stewart to their team, of course, and also, you know, as you said, the Oni Warriors just taking a loss. They've been looking real clean, but it seems like the Bolts seem to have their number in particular.
Yeah, definitely for the Olympus Bolts have been keeping the Oni Warriors at bay. Their last two sets have been losses. We'll see if the Oni Warriors can turn that around here. Let's take a look at the schedule for the remainder of our day and our weekend. As I said, our first set of the day was Jade Dragons and Camelot Kings. 3 games, 40-plus minutes in 2 of those, and a nearly 30-minute game 3 as well. Moves us now into Oni Warriors versus Tartarus Titans. And to round out our day, Atlantis Leviathans and the Valhalla Valkyries, a rematch from the previous week of the SPL. We ended week number 4 with those two, and now we get to end at least day number 2 of our 5th week with those ones squaring off. And then another triple header on Sunday, so make sure you're tuning into there. But for the standings, with the win by the Jade Dragons, that one should now push them up at least to the first seed for the time being. If the Atlantis Leviathans do find a win in their next set, we'll push them back up and at least keep the Jade Dragons in that top 2 position. Camelot Kings and Oni Warriors hot on their heels, both sitting at 5-3 right now. And what a great way for the Oni Warriors to kind of get themselves back into this game if they can find a win over the Tartarus Titans, push themselves just slightly above the Camelot Kings. But the Tartarus Titans are just right there. They just recently added Stewart over to their roster, so trying to at least kind of get him recentered and refocused over in that duo lane with Aurora, trying to make some change-ups there. But I think for the Oni Warriors, this is a matchup that really matters to them. They've been sitting here at this top 4. They finished 3rd in Phase 2's Master Split, able to find their win against the Tartarus Titans at that time. So for the Oni Warriors, being able to get a win here, continue to keep themselves that much higher up in the top 4, I think is kind of the more important thing, because these guys have been on the rise. So far, it's really only been the Bolts that have had their number dialed in.
Yeah, it seems like the Oni Warriors would love to also split apart a bit from the Tartarus Titans in the standings, right? They're very close, and the win here would put them above the Camelot Kings, as you said. So, you know, with that in mind, we got 3 weeks of SPL left. You got to make sure you're turning up, and I think the Oni Warriors have been looking real clean as of recent. You know, I would just say it's just a bit of a small step down when they're up against the Bolts. For some reason, it just seems like the Bolts seem to have their number. But besides that, they have been looking real solid. And I've been liking what I see, especially from the picks and bans out of them. Right, I think their god compositions are always a bit not strange but different, and it makes for a lot of exciting plays. So I want to see a lot of that, especially from the Oni Warriors in a matchup like this where the standings are so important, as we've been talking about. And I do expect they're going to, you know, come out hot, because that's kind of just the mentality they've been having. You know, Cubo Fred in the jungle has been, I mean, we say it a lot whenever we cast those games. Pay attention to the face cams. He's hyping up, he's screaming, he's yelling. And I think that's got to be the mindset. Come out swinging and try to overwhelm the Titans before they even get a chance.
Something that I have been noticing that's been kind of a trend of the Warriors, even in their matchups against the Bolts where they were either winning or then losing out, was they're still kind of playing around the idea that they have this Amuzin Cobb. Dart has been able to get this pick so often, and so it's kind of turned into this 4-Fizz comp. We find whoever it is, Dart has throw Stinger out there, we just kill whoever gets hit with the Stinger. But whenever they don't have it, they're still kind of following that same mentality. They're still focusing out these tanks, and it's caused them so many problems against the Olympus Bolts. They were trying to kill Baskin multiple times and weren't able to find too much success there. They end up falling down. But now up against the Oni Warriors are the Tartarus Titans, who have been in a bit of a rocky patch, at least as of this phase. Only has found themselves 3 wins so far, sitting 2 wins behind the next highest position. I mean, this is the 5th and 4th seed that we're talking about, Charlie, and the Titans are trying to refine their groove, especially now with new player Stewart thrown into their roster.
Yeah, I want to see that team synergy being built up. Of course, the duo lane synergy is so important right now, as you said, Stewart, new to the team, trying to get down some synergy with Aurora in particular. and the team as a whole, I think, seems a bit lost. I personally want to get back to the hard carry Paul days. I think that is something that the Tartarus Titans like to do, you know, with layers facilitating him in the mid lane, trying to give him some extra farm, and then just letting Paul pop. I think that's when the Titans look pretty clean, but also when SOT is able to run away with the solo lane, I haven't been able to see that as of recent. We saw his one pop-up performance on tier, but besides that, you know, has not been able to get to that same level of dominance throughout the map. So I think possibly just a bit of an identity crisis here for the Tartarus Titans. I imagine with some extra practice under the belt, they should be looking just fine. So I do want to see, you know, exactly how much they've been able to let this new team comp and new just draft in general come into fruition for them.
Plays like this one from SOT, I mean, these are one in a million. You don't get to see these ones very often on this tier, being able to escape 4 people, then backing, waiting for Sam, blink past for a blanket in that regard. I mean, wild plays that have been coming from the Titans, and it just shows that this is a team that is capable of the top level of play. This is a team that's capable of making these kinds of big plays, but they've been a little inconsistent in that regard, whether it be SOT not having the strongest game, whether it be Paul not having his pop-off. But I think you're right to kind of point that one out. Is I miss the days of the hard Paul carry. We saw it up against the Solar Scarabs on that set game. I think he was like 5-0 by the 8-minute mark. When we see Tartarus Titans playing with that level of confidence, they seem like an unbeatable team.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of the difference maker, right? If they can get Paul on one of those hard carry style picks. I don't think too many of his favorite characters are in the meta currently, but let's be honest, if you're able to play the, you know, the Vulcan, that sort of thing, you've got that big burst damage. Paul likes playing those style of mages as well. You know, I just don't think at the moment you're really locking in hell, but, you know, I think it could work, so I'm just wanting to see, you know, more of those style of plays from the Tartarus Titans, but I still think it's just a bit of an identity crisis. I think they'll, with a little bit more practice, they'll be able to, you know, really find their swagger on the battlegrounds.
We'll see for the Tartarus Titans if they can do so. We did have a moment to sit by and talk with Stuart for a pregame interview, so we'll go ahead and throw it over to that one.
I think overall we performed pretty okay for like starting out kind of, but I think there's a bunch of stuff that we can work on, especially against the Only Warriors, for example, and I think we will be more prepared for them next week. And I also think Sot's tier players were actually, apparently he was going crazy. I haven't bet to see him yet, but apparently he's going crazy.
Jukes out one stun, Needs is the second portion of it. And SOT is just biding his time, finds a double fearless, avoids the execute, and now Layers is here to slow it down. The Mon, not enough damage, SOT makes it out of the clutches of 4 Solar Scarabs. And all the while, the Tartarus Titans take a Primal Fury on the left side.
Soccer's got eyes, blinks the scythe! That is absolutely insane! SOT is mechanics dipping the entirety of the Solar Scarab.
I definitely think the bye week will help us because there's just more practice, and we're at the stage where like I'm new and like filling in like a new role where Cyclone was kind of filling in a different role, so it'll definitely help us with more practice. I think the rematch with Only Warriors this time will be a lot different because we're gonna have a lot more practice coming into it, and I think we're gonna win surely 2-0.
Could be a good look for the Tartarus Titans now moving into their rematch against the Oni Warriors. Again, reminder for those who are unfamiliar, now that we're in the second half of this phase, it's one more round robin phase, so everybody will play against each other one more time now, starting off yesterday and then moving in for the remainder of these 3 weeks of the SPL for this phase, and then top 6 teams move themselves on towards playoffs. And being able to keep yourself in the top 6, very important for a team like the Titans, for the Warriors, unless something absolutely disastrous happens for either of these two teams. Don't really see a position where they would have to worry about their top 6 spot being compromised. But I think, as you said earlier, the Tartarus Titans wanting to kind of close up that gap between the top 4 and the bottom 4. Right now, it's a 2-set win difference between them. 5 wins at least for the Oni Warriors, 3 wins only for the Tartarus Titans. If you can get that just a little bit closer each and every single week, makes it that much easier to try and break yourself into a better chance for those playoffs, Trelly.
Yeah, I would say so. I don't think it's the instant gratification they're looking for. It's going to be a gradual climb. They're not just going to be the number 1 team tomorrow. As Stuart said, they still have a lot of things they have to work on with him being a new addition to this team. But we know there's a lot of mechanical skill on this roster as is, and I imagine they just really have to chisel that out. It takes a bit. Pressure makes diamonds after all, so I imagine this is kind of what I want to see them show up. That they don't have that much time left. That's what we've been also hammering on. You only get it's a new team excuse for so long. 3 weeks total left of SPL play, and you really got to make all the adjustments you can in that time. So I'm hoping to see a much different Tartarus Titans than we've been able to see up until these weeks today, like right now. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and again, the important thing to kind of take away from all of this is the bottom two teams, whenever we're moving in towards the playoffs, they don't even get a play. So for them, at least for the moment, the teams like the Solar Scarabs, the Valkyries, if they can't break out of that bottom two, once this this final week of SPL is done 3 weeks from now, that's it for them all the way until the week before Worlds. For these top 16 teams, they get a couple of extra weeks, at least going through towards playoffs. So every single game matters. Every single individual win you can find matters. We'll jump in to the picks and bans for game number 1 between the Oni Warriors and the Tartarus Titans. Immediately, the Warriors going to target out one of the bigger threats of the Titan squad, that hyper carry in Paul, taking a healer in Hell out of the meta and off of a pick and a player like that. The Tartarus Titans will respond by taking away what we like to consider one of the problem children that the Oni Warriors love drafting, Dodgy, immediately taken out as well.
Yeah, I have to imagine AMC and the Morgan still in the conversation, but it looks like Kabrakan and Hades more pressing currently for these squads. I mean, Dardes is going to get his pick of the litter here, especially because the Vulcan's going to be taken away. So, you know, AMC or the Morgan still available, and the Titans get to decide, do we want to take away one, grab the other, or leave them both open, all on the table so far. I know that, you know, the Ymir, for example, has also been something that's been pretty highly contested. Yemoja has fallen off a bit, but let's be honest, still does really run that dual lane when given the chance. And the Tartarus Titans are going to make the call to take away Cuvo's Hunbats and leave the AMC and the Morgan open. Which one do the Oni Warriors want? They prefer the Morgan. They're going to let that B go away.
Will be the Morgan, but now AMC, and as you just briefly mentioned, a guy that's been banned away 94% of games so far this phase, Yemoja, still up on the table if the Tartarus Titans want to take that one for Aurora in the support role. So it might be one of the first times that we have seen Yemoja in quite a while. I believe the last week of SPL, she was banned 100% of the time, has been banned 100% up until just now. So could be seeing our first game in week number 5 for Yemoja to pop her head through. But as mentioned, AMC still up for mid. Don't necessarily have to take that here, though, because we haven't really seen AMC go away from the mid lane as of now. With the Morgan already locked in, Oni Warriors probably unlikely to take that AMC over for vote.
Yeah, probably not. I don't imagine that would be the call. But in this situation, you know, you have to get a strong 1-2 because you've given up the Morgan. And I think that's probably why the Titans are thinking about this so hard. You know, I doubt you play the set because then you're giving the set transformation over to the Oni Warriors. Maybe your call is, hey, we can force out that ult defensively and still get away with playing the set, something like that. But for my money, you're not giving that transformation over to Dardes. So the Titans have to think about this real long here because I imagine the Emoji certainly could be something they're looking towards. But does Aurora want to play that? Yes, it's going to be locked in there in that first pick slot, and it is going to be the Guan Yu.
Wow.
Recognizing they don't have to pick the AMC if they don't want to because it's not going to be grabbed here from the Oni Warriors, as you were saying. They're going to go with the 1-2 punch of some great healers and sustain. That does leave open double Pele for the Oni Warriors, though, and that's scary.
Scary might be an understatement.
Yeah.
We've seen what these two players specifically can do with that God combination in the past, and it is deadly to say quite the least. But, at least for now, no AMC. Set locked in for the Titans. Now this one could go to Layers in the jungle, could go to Paul in the mid, as more often flex towards Paul. And at least for the Oni Warriors, that's where they're thinking it might be going, as a Thor gets banned away by the Oni Warriors. Tartarus Titans will take away Cthulhu Ram. And then a final answer by the Warriors is Susano. So they're not imagining that the set is going over towards Layers. They're probably hedging their bets that that set is going towards Paul and mid.
I would say so. The Titans, so far, gotta be loving the draft that they have. Not a lot of magical damage, but they will have plenty of physical damage anyways. And I can't imagine that Layers goes towards a magical jungler. When was the last time we even saw a magical character in the jungle? It's been a bit.
Who would you even play at this point?
Yeah, like Hebo, Alquang, Kabrakan, those are the ones that come to mind, and Poseidon as well. Yeah, haven't been too strong. We can hold on to that thought as the Oni Warriors get their chance to try and grab. I mean, I do like the Rama ban because we know Vote has been playing this Rama so much, and his snipes simply don't miss. Like, if Rama goes up, you're probably expecting all 3 of those shots to land, especially in Vote's hands. So taking that away, definitely a smart call, as well as trying to focus out a bit of what Nika could do on that Cthulhu. The Charybdis hover has been coming through, does bring an incredible amount of safety, and especially a decent matchup into the Cupid. We'll have to see if the Oni Warriors do want to lock that in, but for Nika in that solo lane, you're going up against a Guan Yu. More often than not, I feel like he's been leaning towards things like the Ama and the Bologna, you know, these auto attackers, but The Camazotz is going to be the call. That's going to bring a ton of dive as well as a good transformation for Dardes. If you don't want the Pele, you can use the Camazotz as well.
Ishtar, the last pick along with the Camazotz. Very physical slanted draft picked up by the Oni Warriors. Morgan going to be the primary magic damage for that.
Favor.
Wow.
And then an Athena for the
So
Tartarus
Guan
Titans.
jungle or Athena jungle?
I was thinking Athena jungle at first, but I mean, Trelly, kind of talk to me about the merits and the strengths of either of those ones going into the jungle for your money's worth.
Well, I would love to. I prefer Athena in the jungle, I would say, because the poly combos are just fun. I'm not going with the strength of the pick. I'm going with how much fun you can have in the jungle. But I don't imagine that's going to be the call. It's just too difficult to really get these picks off, right? Especially into a pick like Ymir. You're not going to be able to really dash in and be full damage Athena. So it's probably just going to be layers taking the Guan Yu. Either way, they have a lot of global presence here. I mean, as long as you're able to follow up with this Athena throughout, you've got a ton of CC. And you're as long as you're pulling those beats for the Cupid, should be just fine. But this is not an easy comp to make worth as well. They are missing a bit of damage in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like to answer to some of the lack of magical damage is where the Athena comes through to try and maybe shore up that gap a little bit. And there's not really a whole lot of shred that comes from this. I mean, Guan Yu with Tallow Assault, maybe be able to get that one through unless you get frozen by a Ymir. So there's not a lot of shred to really deal with some of the physical defense that can be picked up by the Oni Warriors. And then always looking at a Morgan composition, I mean, you got a Pele, you got a Camazotz, you have a set that can all be transformed into by Dardes. For the Tartarus Titans, how do they play around this Morgan as we start moving in towards the later parts of the game?
I mean, it's going to be all-out dive. That's got to be the call. They have the set. They have the cavalry charge. I imagine it's going to be the 1-2 punch of, possibly layers on the cavalry charge followed by Paul in the set. If you're using the bat out of hell defensively, you could get away. But if you're trying to turn into Pele, you're going to be chased down in that regard. So Dardes is going to have to watch his transformations. Forcing the Morgan to ult defensively is always how you want to try and deal with her. If she's using that ult to get out, she can't really use that to affect the team fight positively. It's not going to be that easy. So I do have to imagine that's the call. That's what the Titans are going for, right? All out engage. River's Rebuke, insane cooldown. I mean, it's just going to be go in. Hopefully you win the fight. If not, you've got plenty of sustain built in, but your fight's not going to look that clean after with your ult stand.
Yeah, I think maybe that's the next question I'll pose to you, or maybe even something that the casters can talk about a little bit as well, as the amount of sustain that the Titans have drafted. Umoja, Guan Yu, Cupid, Set having some of his own heal in there. Is that sustain going to be enough to get the Tartarus Titans through this game, or is the burst damage of the Oni Warriors going to be too much? We'll jump into game number 1 with Dulcet and Mifflin.
That's right. Another big one here is the Warriors and the Titans go toe-to-toe standings-wise. Big implications towards the end of the phase here as well, with the Oni Warriors trying to keep pace with the top 4 teams and the Tartarus Titans trying to break in to those top 4 teams. So a lot on the line here between these two squads. And Miff, pretty storied matchups between these two teams. Tend to be very close to one another in the standings. This matchup here, no different. It'll be the last scheduled matchup for these two prior to playoffs, prior to group stages, prior to Worlds potentially, barring any miraculous upsets on either side. And the Titans continue to play their interesting pick ban strategy. They'll throw SOT on Athena solo and Guan Yu for layers in the jungle.
And when you say interesting,
I do mean interesting. That's not an undertone.
there's no undertones.
No undertone.
No.
I mean interesting.
I'm not reading. There's nothing between the lines there.
No.
I could pull out 3 magnifying glasses. I'm not going to see
you
anything
can zoom
behind that.
all the way in on it, and I purely mean it's unique. No Dave undertones on this one. I'm a straight shooter, man.
Uh-huh.
I'm not. There's no gaslighting going on here.
God, I'm so sick of hearing about gaslighting.
You say gaslighting more than anyone I've ever met. If you're sick of it, it's your own fault. I do want to talk about the Athena solo, though, Miff, in the Guan Yu jungle. Maybe make some sense. You put Athena over in soul lane, can rotate around with that ultimate, but also has teleport, and so Sot's mobility should be pretty high here in this game.
Yeah, the answer generally to Athena solo back when it was pseudo meta, I'm thinking back in the Obey days when Ducky was playing it pretty consistently, was to just bring the fight over to the Athena, play around her, so there's never really a numbers disparity. She can't ult to herself, and she's not bringing anyone to her. And especially in Athena with this type of build, so squishy early on. Conduit Gem into what I imagine is going to be a Book of Thoth. I can't think of anything else that I would prefer to have from that tree in the first slot. If I'm Cubo Fred,
Poly.
I am highly considering a rotate. Yeah, she'll get Poly. Like that is likely to happen. It ain't happening there though.
You can't think first overall.
Surely not. You know Poly. You need the power, then
Yeah.
the passive's the value.
Well, first of all, don't call me Shirley. Second of all, yeah, you're probably right. Tends to be what we see. Usually a stacking item early on. That's like Hades type build. Hades goes Warlocks, Book of Thoth, things like that.
If it is just a standard,
What if it's
might
just,
be
what if it's
the
just straight Hades build?
I mean, it works, right? Like
Does it
Book
work
of
on
Thoth
Athena as well as it does
in
on
a Warlock staff, so you can get some survivability and stand in front of them. Bancroft's Claw. I mean, all your abilities are point blank on Athena. If you're gonna be doing a full damage Athena build, I want it to be the Hades build.
Now, I mean, Sod is the type to break the meta like that, you know? I mean, over the year, over Season 9 so far, when there's just been a random stray pick that suddenly makes its way into the solo lane meta, I would guess that it's SOT that's the first one to play it. Did it with Robin. Uber solo was a big Sot thing there for a little while. It's constantly innovated. We'll see what Athena ends up breaking down. But that also means that it's Guan Yu in the jungle then for layers. And you wonder what gank potential starts to look like. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry for Cubo Fred on the Pele. We know what Pele jungle wants to do. Wonder what this Guan Yu jungle is going to be able to get done for layers.
Actually, could we get a look at the level order that Layers has gone for here? I'm wondering if he actually went for Talu Assault. If he's maxing that one out. No, it's the charge. Makes a lot more sense when you're concerned about maybe some stuns from Dardes or Neilma or even Vote canceling that channeled ability. But what Guan Yu does bring is very strong gank potential once you tick over to level 5. If you are ever out of position, you're essentially just dead because Cavalry Charge is that strong of a tool of just sticking to your target, applying that stun instantly if you so choose, but otherwise the slow, the constant damage, it's essentially unpeelable, barring a wall from Neilma. I think that is going to be a very interesting interaction that we're going to see throughout the course of this game, especially in some of those mid-game objective team fights, is whether or not Neilma decides to hold onto his wall to deal with the horse from Layers.
It's a nice little double freeze from Neo, but this early in the game and with no help coming, just some poke damage from Vote. Now, Myth, you and I talked on the desk for set 1 about how picks and bans may change because of the relic situation today. Players can only choose beads or Aegis. We've seen mostly beads. And
Yeah,
then
get
paired with Shell. And so I wonder if Neil is suddenly under threat later on in this game, if it ends up being Shell for Stewart and Shell for Paul. With Phantom Shell upgrades, I wonder if Neil is at threat of having reduced, oh god, I'm going to do it again, effectiveness or efficacy.
It's efficacy.
On the wall if there's high priority into the Shell this game.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, there probably will be more Shell pickups, but whether or not they all need to be Phantom Shell, I don't think so. Fortifying Shell is still incredibly strong, would help you a little bit in the mobility department. And it is just a Ymir.
And for Aurora at that point, you know, with the River's Rebuke, I mean, Dardes and Vote might be wanting to get Shell anyway.
Yeah, I'm thinking Phantom Shell, probably a pickup for both sides. I'd be surprised if it's like more than 2.
I want all the Shells.
Certainly just 1. Fortifying Shell's good, man. What's your beef?
No. I'm just saying, by the end of the game, the wall lasts so long.
7 seconds.
Right, there's simply not enough uptime for everyone to use their Phantom Shells if you have that many in a team fight. If you're using that many, the fight's been going on for 30, 45 seconds. If you're somehow cycling through 3 Phantom Shells, so I agree. Fortifying Shell might be a nice pickup. Now, something that Des talked about a little bit as well, sustain. That's what the Titans have built up a lot of here between the Guan Yu, Aurora, Stewart mainly, but Set's got a little bit in there, and potentially some with Sot, depending on where that build goes. It is Book of Thoth, by the way. Answer for Neil is early Ankh and early upgrade on the Ankh. Just wants to go ahead and nip that one in the bud and limit the healing early on in this game.
Yeah, I think Neil is almost restricted into going towards the Ankh because when you look at the rest of the composition, maybe the best applier of anti-heal is Cubo Fred with like a Blink knockup or the ultimate. Brawler's Beat Stick can find some value there, but Dardes on the Morrigan, not exactly the best at getting Divine Ruin on priority targets. It's largely single target damage, ranged poke, right? You don't have just like a large AoE you can toss out and say, hey, now you're healing for less. So Ankh, I think, going to need to find a good deal of value. But the healing that the Tartarus Titans have gone for, except for Layers, is generally out of combat healing. It's going to be Stewart re-sustaining after a fight, or Aurora constantly applying his heals out of combat through auto attack, so hard to control a bit of the healing there in general.
Paul needed the teleport over the wall there. Good catch out from Neilma. Now, Neil has gone a few Ymir games since the ill-fated, granted they won, but the poor start to the game a few weeks ago. Neil has turned it around in the last Ymir game, last couple that we've seen at least. This stun there from Dardes means return damage from Paul. And Oni Warriors fans like what they see early in this game. Even just a couple of walls, couple of freezes connecting, kind of getting into good positioning type scenarios for Neil on this Ymir, not getting caught out early. Checkbox #1 for this Oni Warriors dual lane. Get Vote into a good spot to scale up later on as well. Now the mid lane matchup, Miff, here between Set and Morgan. Similar potential, I suppose. Both have assassin-y type capabilities. But really it's those transformations, I think, for Dardes later in this game. And the team fights break out that really changed the dynamic.
Yeah, I wonder what Dardes has got pre-selected for his transformation here. It's probably Camazotz. It is very seldom not Camazotz, right?
People like Pele, though, right?
Pele is good for an all-in engagement. Like if you are saying, hey, I need to kill this enemy, Pele might be your best transform. Guan Yu's a pretty good transformation target as well. The chase down potential pretty decent, but you're getting the second ability. Dash is pretty good. That's what Layers has gone for himself. So, yeah, I think Dardes has got a magnitude of good decisions ahead of him.
Is there a world where you see like Athena? You think he ever?
I sure hope not.
For global pressure, you ever think Athena makes an appearance?
I guess if Dardes is just like not where he's supposed to be, right? He's like, I got to get over there.
Yeah, I guess if you're in the mid lane, you can rotate out, just like he's done here to the left side of the map. First Rivers Rebuke of the game. It's up, and here comes Sot from the solo lane. There's your mobility, and the global pressure means a 5v3, maybe 5v4 for the Tartarus Titans, and it's 2 kills plus now maybe Gold Fury for the Titans on a beautiful team fight. The Rivers Rebuke near perfect from Aurora. And no answer from the Oni Warriors, and a nice early lead for the Titans.
Man, I thought that was the turnaround for the Oni Warriors. Dardes rotates through, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, Aurora's done, right? He is not surviving
now,
this.
if he were Athena.
If he were Athena, maybe. But it is the Athena that's the difference maker.
Yeah.
Defender of Olympus with the damage mitigations afforded to Aurora, keeps him alive, and even maintains the shell. Aurora was under such little threat there that he gets to hold on to his relic. Mail of Renewal plus damage mitigation, I think just makes that a very difficult target for the Oni Warriors to lock down. We got to look at what Layers is going to be doing for the most part of this game as well. Just rotates through the team fight, says, oh, okay, we're winning. I'm going to go ahead and hop on Epona and run them down. And that's exactly what happens, man. The Tartarus Titans. That was thin margins, though. It feels like one more burst ability from the Oni Warriors, and Aurora dies, and the fight goes the complete other way. But because of the pacing of it, the Titans absolutely dominate. SOT, having committed to the rotation, makes it easy to transfer there over to the Fury immediately afterward. The first fight took a couple of minutes, 8 minutes, to line up, but when it does, it's the Tartarus Titans coming out hugely ahead.
You're telling me Guan Yu's horse is named E-Pony? Isn't that a bit on the nose?
No, it was a joke, because like one of the most famous horses in video game fiction is Epona.
Yeah.
And that's from... Dog, no way. You're a meme? Dog.
What, Zelda?
That's right.
Yeah,
yes,
right.
that one.
I never played it, but...
Never played any... Oh, okay. Oh, you are lucky I am on the clock.
I got out of... Never mind. We're about to go sideways. It was a great fight. And look, SOT, and we talked about having the teleport could be important for Sot, who's able to ult over to the left side of the map, go back to base, buy, and then just teleport back to lane. And so there's very little downtime.
So annoying.
In that lane for Sot. And right, Nika is just left to farm. I believe steals away a blue buff, so that's something back for Nika, but getting involved in these fights early. Great look for Sot, who's now gone into Divine Ruin. There is a bit of sustain that the Oni Warriors have to worry about as well, specifically in lane. Anything you can do to limit a Camazotz. A strong start for SOT. Plus some flat pen early on this Athena. It's a strong start for the Tartarus Titans, who now want to transform their lead into a Pyromancer. Cubo Fred in range. Cubo Fred gets the steal. And honestly, just a Pyro, but maybe needed. The Oni Warriors now equalize the gold, but the momentum felt there for the Titans, and a play to be made on the left. And Neilma and Vote are able to find it And a purple buff invade for the Oni Warriors duo.
Great timing from Cuvo Fred. If that Pyromancer goes to the Titans, they're primed to just continue farming up and then get ready for the next Gold Fury. But Cuvo Fred single-handedly keeps it at an even state. Rotation through, might catch out Neil Ma.
Roar has been on a good start here to this game. Neilma, the last bit of mana.
Good lord.
Means ultimate, and that means Sot over to left. Now 30 seconds left on the teleport. That means Nika gets a bit of free farm time. So an assist on one side, but you gotta look at the macro game here. Nika was able to knock down the tier 1 tower eventually. Push out some more of those waves. Sot might miss a few minions on this wave as well. Good for one side of the map as Aurora's pulled 2 levels ahead, but you're leaving Nika some free farm time over on right.
Do you see the damage that SOT's putting up
Yeah,
with
it was a
just
lot.
Defender of Olympus? Dude's looking like Adam Smasher out there, just dunking down. Absolutely ridiculous. And this is what I was concerned about. The Oni Warriors have not addressed SOT directly, so he's allowed to freely rotate across the map. He hasn't needed to stick around in his lane. The fight hasn't come to him. So every time SOT has gotten involved, he's been playing around his allies. One of the weaknesses of Athena solo is that Athena doesn't do much solo. She needs her teammates around. Someone to follow up on the confound. She needs someone to follow up on the slows, the all-in style of her initiation. So when you bring the fight to her, she's got a telegraphed escape. She has to channel her ultimate and stand still, which will allow you to just sink damage into her, and damage will connect. She's got no defense built up. I would have loved to see the Oni Warriors try and address it a little bit earlier on, but it might be too little too late now.
Here's the question, Myth. Now you start to get into a territory where Nico is able to knock down the tier 1 over on right. Is now the idea for the Oni Warriors. We're starting to rotate this Camazotz out of lane. The tier 1 tower is already knocked down. Do you think that frees up a bit more rotation potential, try to match this Athena?
Well, the difference is the committal nature of the rotation, right?
Sure.
If Nico wants to leave, he's got to walk on his little bat legs, and then he's got to walk back, right? When
Camazotz
SOT
do to you, it's brutal.
wants to leave, my man jumps to the sky and breaks spines on landing. So, sure, Nika could start rotating a little bit more consistently. Doesn't need to be around if he could push it up to the tier 2 tower. But SOT can just sit in lane, push up some waves, probably pull ahead, and then match the rotation. The second Nika shows up on the map, SOT's like, word, I'm there.
Yeah.
Give me 3 seconds.
Yeah, that teleport pickups really just changed the dynamic. Because you think of something like Chernobog over in duo. Oftentimes we'll see that ult out just for a kill, just for an assist, something like that on the right side of the map. Then you have to go back, then you have to walk all the way back to lane. The ability to just kind of ping-pong around has totally changed things early for the Titans. And it feels like that's an identity that's been missing from this squad a bit in Phase 3. They've had these unique picks, but hasn't formed an entire game plan in the same way that this pick is really changing things here. Now, there has to be a conversation. You know, the lead has been pretty close. It hasn't gotten too out of control one way or another. There might reach a point in this game where rotationally the Oni Warriors are able to force bigger objectives, things like that. I mean, is there a critical mass? Is there a tilting point in this game where Athena ult plus teleport is just not as effective as it is here in the first 13 minutes?
Well, the teleport will probably lose a little bit of value once some of these towers fall down. SOT in some trouble. Finally, a rotation.
Yeah, maybe it's not game state as much as where you're fighting. Lots of damage, though, as SOT with a killing blow finishes off Cuvo Fred. Layers forced to dash away. Nika's got some damage applied. Under the tower he goes, but there's no bat out of hell on the tower shot. Needed one more, and a good rotation in. Oni Warriors with 2.
It's so much more simple for the Oni Warriors to take the fights over towards the Soul Lane. SOT has legitimately no answer to a wall from Neilma. We don't have any Phantom Shells just yet
Don't let the Athena
on
do
the
it.
Tartarus Titans. Just don't let her use the ultimate. When the fight is on top of Athena, she doesn't get those opportunities. And those opportunities will almost never come so long as the fight starts on Athena, especially with this type of build, continuing to go down that full damage tree. That's not to say that SOT won't get to a point where he'll be able to defend himself. That'll come pretty shortly. It's generally around that Polynomicon point where he can use the reach passive to continually poke out from a range where Confound is a threat on its own. But that's a good pick for the Oni Warriors as they move into the Primal Fury and potentially more.
Oh my goodness, Paul
See ya.
jumped on by the Oni Warriors and cleaned up by Cuvo Fred. Now it's Primal Fury.
Good wall.
Heart Bomb on Tanika. Yep, already, look, it's still there. That is crazy.
He
As the
matched
Oni
it.
Warriors get themselves the Primal Fury. You might have noticed some crit from Volt there, the kind of shotgun cone autos cleaving down. That Fury goes into Shadow Steel. Looks like Shadow Steel plus Wind Demon for both of the ADCs early in this game here, Miff. So anti-heal, great. But we also haven't seen big crit builds in a little while. Looks like the mindset for both Stewart and Vote.
Yeah, get used to it when you're seeing Ishtar. It is worth noting that Ishtar's shotgun auto, the pronged autos do not proc item effects, but they still do proc crit, which means that Ishtar is inherently going to get a little bit more value from this style of build, especially around neutral objectives. The ability to just absolutely shred fire giants, pyromancers, gold furies is one of the main strengths of Ishtar, especially in the mid game. Oni Warriors group significantly. I think SOT a bit lucky there that he was grouped up on the Greater Scorpion, catches that rotation. Had he been around his own blue buff or those back camps, I'm pretty sure the Warriors were hunting him immediately, but instead have to fall back to neutral. Keep your eyes on the Oni Warriors. Feels like they've got a good deal of momentum going into this next couple of team fights, and the Pyromancers should be spawning in just under a minute here. Fighting on the right-hand side should favor the Warriors. Again, as long as you can keep the fight near SOT, it's going to look a lot better for the Order side team.
Now, what feels like, or what felt like, remember, we were talking a lot about SOT and how disruptive that Athena was. Right after we came back from that pause, worth noting, and that, you know, it was a few minutes ago at this point, Oni Warriors were a bit ahead in gold. So the plays that were made didn't result in a massive gold lead for the Titans in the same way they have for the Oni Warriors. Pyromancer steal plus fight was last time. Pyromancer cleanly and out for the Tartarus Titans this time around. Maybe just feeling Oni Warriors like they weren't in a position to really contest. Nika started to hit his stride here as well and hit a roar with a mountain of damage. SOT has delayed out the fight. Defender of Olympus in the mid lane. And Aurora lives. The shell, fantastic. Oni Warriors will not clean up the kill onto Yamoja. And very, very needed were those protections from SOT.
Man, SOT's timing on these ultimates to keep Aurora alive have just been perfect. Now, the Tartarus Titans have an opportunity to step back forward. Aurora licking his wounds and getting healed up by the massive sustain of the Tartarus Titans. Seems like they're looking for a fight. SOT's sticking around. A taunt could just spell doom for any member of the Oni Warriors from here. It's all about slowing down this siege. A good wall means you can't poke the tower at all.
Well, Stewart's put a nice game together with the assistance of SOT. A couple of those kills finding their way onto Neilma. But Voda's maintained a steady one or so level lead out of the duo lane. Maybe when the Ymir is dead and out of your lane, the waves just give you more XP, I guess, for Vote. That's helped him out a little bit. Blue buff up. Nika and Cubo Fred have their eyes on it and able to drop it. And so unlucky for SOT. Keeps looking for this damage Miff. Very front-loaded. Still top of the damage charts, though, for this Athena. You'll need more of it in the next few team fights.
I'm taking a look at Layers' damage output. I had felt like the Tartarus Titans hadn't had too much presence from their jungler.
Where is it?
Yeah, he's at the bottom. It'll take you a while to get there. 1,500
I was scrolling down.
in 18 minutes. And Guan Yu jungle with a damage build, that's not a late game thing. That's not what you drafted it for. His healing will be okay in the late game, but a little too squishy to stand in front of people as the game goes on. Going to be difficult to see that damage go much higher. Curious to see. I mean, there are good ult combos, like Layers plus SOT together, Cavalry Charge and Defender of Olympus at the same time. Might be able to make it easier for them to get involved, but it's still tough.
Look, Blink Athena taunt is about as classic as it gets. Neilma has received plenty, and this is just one more now. Luckily for the Oni Warriors, Aurora's the one who ends up getting the kill, but Neil has been trying to catch up from a 2-level deficit earlier on. Got just 1 level down.
Yikes.
Could get worse here. Beads off of Dardes. Another dash in. Another taunt. This time no kill, but plenty of value with the beads off of your Morgan, your mid laner. Now a bit more susceptible.
Yeah, I think that the only reason SOT's allowed to dash in like that aggressively is because of who they had picked. Generally, we'll see SOT dash forward in the team fight. Neilma throws a wall behind him and says, look, you're not going to get the follow-up on your Confound, and you still are squishy. So that generally will be the answer. But because Neil is dead, it's really just Dardes in range. You've got a free grab of the beads, and SOT says, word, that's value on its own. I don't need to stick around. Backs himself out of there. Next time it happens, Dardes probably just dies. Imagine we see him play pretty safe.
Stun on a Stu, answered by immediate beads. And the dash away from the Cupid. So a couple Phantom Shells, really just the one for Aurora, already starting to make their way through here in this game. And so Neoma's wall, a bit less effective at the hands of Aurora. Oni Fury picked up though. Oni Warriors not shying away from the fight, though Vote and that team fighting ultimate gone!
see ya!
Wall's beautiful, and so's the damage. Vote blows up layers. Around the Oni Fury go the Oni Warriors. A dash in from Taunt, double taunt. Double Rivers Rebuke, then it's immaculate. It's Chef's Kiss from the Tartarus Titans on the answer back in. At a numbers deficit, it doesn't matter when the taunts are connecting like the way they are.
Man, SOT is really making a name for himself in this game. He has just dominated the entirety of the map from the solo lane. Legitimately, he has had more presence than I think either of the junglers so far. 2-1 and 5. 100% kill participation, and he's 100% of the initiation too. Dardes falls down.
And Dardes just had used the ultimate, unable to really get it off. Nika, bat out of hell, forces the Titans back, so the Titans somewhat low, but remember, plenty of sustain in this composition. Oni Fury considered to be fought over by the Oni Warriors, but no, it's the Titans with a miraculous team fight and an equalizer. Mifflin, Titans now ahead in XP and dead even in gold after what was an over 2,000 gold lead for the Oni Warriors. It's a one-man wrecking crew right now, and that team fight brought to you by SOT and the big Athena taunts. Beads still up from Vote, but Vote was able to back away from that fight, didn't end up needing him. So difficult to answer back a lot of the initiation the Titans have brought.
And now the answer is going to be even more difficult to find. SOT with the Magi's Blessing pickup means he's going to dash in, taunt, and he's going to glow gold as he walks away and laughs at you, right? I mean, there's just not a whole lot you could do about it until someone's able to burn that Magi's. I feel like I've been saying it all game in the laning phase. I think it's true still. The Oni Warriors need to bring the fight to SOT. If he's allowed to sit at max range in a team fight, dash up, taunt, walk back, rinse, repeat as he has been, we're going to see the team fights go as they have been. The Oni Warriors need to get aggressive, either a pick on the layers, as we've seen, or get aggressive on SOT before he's allowed to choose these engagements.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what? Think about when the Warriors have felt most in control, and it's just after taking the fight to the Athena in lane. But
close.
We're out of the laning phase at this point. So under threat are Nika, Cuvo, Fred, who do not have beads. Dardes does. We'll be able to use the beads, but not the Aegis that he has in that second slot. So he's just beads boy for the rest of this game. You have to keep your eye on those. SOT with blink, dash forward, whatever it may be, has just been on point. 8 of 8 affected kills around this Athena. Only other player at the 100% is Cuvo Fred for the Oni Warriors with 4 out of 4, but the extra 3 deaths makes that a bit sloppier. Wondered how heavily the Titans would commit around the FG. Not very is the answer. We'll take a quick, deep breath here, Miff, but just a drop of the hat. A 2,000 gold lead is built up for the Tartarus Titans and likely remains that way. They might be able to put some pressure on the right side, tier 1.
I'm realizing now that Neoma, 23 minutes into the game, has still not upgraded his shell. How disruptive have Aurora's ultimates been throughout the entirety of this match? Too much. It's beating too much value. The Rivers Rebuke has been dominating these engagements. It's SOT with a taunt, and then Aurora says, it's so easy. Let me just throw some walls up around you. And there is no response now from the Oni Warriors. I'd like to see some sort of shell. Neoma, excuse me. It's Vote, actually, sitting on the shell. Someone's got to get that Phantom, man. Someone's got to deal with it, because until then, the initiation is so simple.
What you mean? Dash in, taunt, force ultimates out of Neoma, things like that? Yeah, it seems pretty simple. And the Titans just run it back one more time. In goes Sot to help out Paul. It's just a clean one pick. Now, I was praising Neoma earlier. Hadn't fallen prey to the 0-3, 0-4, 0-5 type Ymir game. That actually was a really nice start. We've now kind of gotten there, where Neil has dropped a few times in a row and has just been taunted and picked off, forced into that ultimate, and opens the door to the Titans to pull FG.
Yeah, I wonder what the answer is for Neil. The Magi's Blessing that he's working on, gonna help out. Vote loses the beads, but here comes the damage.
Fire Giant confirmed by the Titans. A good ultimate from Vote, but answered better by the Titans. A backflip away means nothing when Stewart's on the case, and another pickup for the Titans. This time, Fire Giant on 5, dashes in. Nika taunted, Paul on a killing spree, and the Titans widening the gap against the Warriors.
The Titans are just a spearhead composition right now. Dash taunt, Paul with the skewer. Stewart throws out a heart bomb and maybe an auto if he needs to. And if anybody starts to straggle away, Aurora throws up the water walls. The Oni Warriors have not been able to start off a fight on their own footing. When you lock in gods like Ymir, you want the fight to be, I walk up, I throw up my wall, I initiate with a stun. But the opportunities haven't been there, and even in the narrow margins where Neoma has attempted to make that exact play, he's met with a confound. He's met with an Aurora stun. He's met with infinite damage that the Tartarus Titans have got thanks to their composition that just has not been matched on the side of the Oni Warriors, not just yet. So it's been poke here or there, Vote using the enhanced range autos at times to sink a couple of shots into the backline of the Tartarus Titans, and Stewart says, okay, back up Hearts, or Aurora does the exact same thing, or Layers presses once, and it completely gets rid of the work, the small bits of work that the Oni Warriors are doing as they prep for the actual team fight proper. Magi's Blessing, still close to getting finished up by Neoma. When that is done, it'll be a little bit easier for the Ymir to start off these engagements. It won't be Freeze getting countered by Confound, it'll be traded out. Maybe just for the other Magi's that SOT is holding, and considering SOT's 6 levels up on Neil, I'm thinking that the initiation is going to be a little bit easier for him to find regardless.
Yeah, you'd think. Chronos Pendant now for Sod. You thought the dash taunts were happening already. A bit more frequently now. Might get 1 or 2 more per team fight from SOT. That'll be Primal Fury uncontested by the Oni Warriors. And it's a brutal spot for Vote right now. Full item, full Executioner behind Stewart, who is 4-0-5 and 1-0-9. I mean, not only has Sot put together a nice game, but the dual lane of the Tartarus Titans undying. It's been great follow-up from Aurora, just the 1 kill not participated in. Other than that, been a great team game. 9 or 10 kills from everyone out of 11. Now it's time for the Oni Warriors on defense here, Miff. You're maybe hoping a wall can catch someone out, someone overextended, but very hard to avoid these blank dash taunts from Sot. I'm not sure the Oni Warriors are going to get to pick and choose their engagements very effectively.
No, they get to play the waiting game, the hurry up and wait game as the Tartarus Titans start to work through the entirety of the map. Maybe go back to base, spend that gold, grab a Pyromancer, some buff invades, then regroup potentially before the Fire Giant respawn with only a minute left. I doubt that's going to be the case. That should be the worst of it now for the Oni Warriors. They can try and regroup and get some power spikes before the Fire Giant respawns. I'm keeping my eyes on Nika. If Nika can prevent SOT from blink taunting, that'd be nice. He might be the only one that can survive jumping into that backline. Cuvo Fred has some pretty decent targets. If you can get on a Paul a little bit earlier, if you can get on a Stewart, maybe the follow-up on the Confound won't be there quite yet, but it just feels like the Tartarus Titans have always started a fight with a dash in, taunt on 1, rinse, repeat, and there hasn't been an answer to the initial. With the Tartarus Titans as ahead as they are, you have to answer the initial. Right. If the game were closer to an even state, it would be SOT goes in, taunt on 1, and then you fight right there, and it's pretty unlikely that that individual target dies, especially considering it has generally been Neoma or Nika getting taunted first. But because of the deficit, it doesn't matter that you're grabbing tanks every time. You're going to find the value every single time and get your kill, fall back, rinse, repeat. The Oni Warriors got to find some way to disrupt that pattern.
It feels like, to your point, Miff, Sot's been using dash taunt even just to get beads sometimes. You'd think, all right, well, you got Bat Out of Hell, you got 4 sets of beads, like should be safe enough from a taunt here or there, but those beads have just not been up when the team fight proper eventually breaks out. Oni Warriors have a big decision to make here. The Fire Giant falls off, the wastes of the Titans about 30 seconds ago. All the Phoenixes are still up, and good ward coverage from both teams really over on the left side of the map. I mean, you're 9,000 gold down. This one a minute away from being enhanced. You're going to get in real awkward territory here from the Oni Warriors. You're maybe letting a normal one go, but an enhanced Fire Giant probably just seals the deal if it's cleanly gotten by the Titans.
Doug, can we get a look at the player healing as well here? Because I'm so interested. 5,400 from Layers. So we've got about 3,000 damage from Layers as well, 30 minutes in. My man's putting up 8K total, and it just doesn't matter. And the Tartarus Titans are simply still steamrolling. My man Layers could have been playing anything
mean,
this game, and it would
8,000.
have looked the same.
8,000, you know, that's like halfway up the charts if you're looking at like effective damage.
Sure. I suppose so.
That's all he's had to do.
I wonder what the Guan Yu really was. Like, why the Guan Yu for this draft?
Don't know.
It hasn't come up, which I suppose is the best position to be put in.
Right, I mean, if you're fighting in these big circles, you're taunting in, you get the burst heals, it's looked good for Layers. And it's actually the Oni Warriors who started up the FG. They are finally taking the fight to the Titans. The one problem, they're down massively in gold. Tartarus makes it into Bat Out of Hell. Paul has cleaned up one. Cubo Fred has dropped as well, and this fight simply was never going to look good for the Oni Warriors. It was their only chance, and now Enhanced Fire Giant should be easy for the Titans.
I mean, the idea, okay, unlucky SOT, he's the other direction. Vote falls down in the back line. The idea there was, all right, we'll pull the Fire Giant because SOT's on the opposite side of the map. SOT's on the opposite side of the map because he doesn't want to be near you guys. He wants to start with Defender of Olympus. Of course he's going to be able to join the fight immediately. Maybe they were hoping, the Oni Warriors that is, that there was no initiation for the Tartarus Titans without SOT. Clearly not the case. You could still have Layers hop on the horse. You could still have Aurora just walk in. And the Oni Warriors did not quite have the damage to take it down fast enough.
No, it's only Dardes now left standing. Neilma respawns and tosses up a wall that saves his mid laner, but it's the Titan. Under the pressure of the Titans, you gotta be worried about. No chance for the Oni Warriors, and the Tartarus Titans clean things up. And Myth, they do it swiftly here in game number 1. There are moments early where, remember, the Oni Warriors are pulling ahead. They're about 1,000 or so gold ahead despite good pressure from the Titans. Simply just not enough fighting maybe on Athena's side of the map gave a big advantage to the Titans.
Every single time the Oni Warriors took a 3v3 on left, they thought it was a 3v3, it was a 3v4. Every single time. You got to take the fight to that global when it's coming out of the soul lane if you want even or good odds for yourself. The one fight that looked really good for the Oni Warriors is when they grouped up, they went to the enemy blue buff, they caught SOT, not on his own grounds, and he just dashed into a wall and died. But since then, they didn't try to reprise that play. They didn't go back over and keep SOT down, and instead kept getting caught unawares by the Defender of Olympus.
What if people... Because we've talked about what Hades and the fear and the silence being so important is like Athena taunt as its own ability. Where do you rank that in like SMITE abilities in general? You know what I mean? Like as a standalone ability.
It is top 5 non-ultimate abilities in the game. It might be top 5 abilities in the game.
Right. That's
straight up.
Right, because even outside of the big rotations, eventually come teamfight time, it was just taunts on cooldown. The Chronos Pendant ended up helping a good bit with SOT as well. It's a creative, and this is why I say interesting in a nice way, Myth, because it worked out for the Titans this time. The interesting in a good way composition works out in game 1 for the Titans. Can the Oni Warriors push us to 3? Find out more Titans versus Warriors coming up next.
wasting my time. I don't know why I can't get you out my mind. Yeah, so lost, where do I go? I was in the chase, caught a flat on road. It was all love, X no O. I was feeling rich, but we turned out broke. Guess I let my feelings take control. Guess I let my demons take the wheel. Used to think that we be growing old. Now I can't believe that it was real. It was back in late December when I did it. I just wish I could forgive. Cause I hate how much I love it. Oh, I hate how I just love to catch a feel. Yeah. I've been wasting my time. I don't know why I can't get you out my mind. And if I find a way to get it, when I do it, I can live it and forget it. Cause I hate how much I love you, or I hate how you just put me in my feelings.
Guess I let my feelings take control. Guess I let my demons take the wheel. Used to think that we be growing old. Now I can't believe that it was real. Guess I let my feelings take control. Guess I let my demons take the wheel. Used to think that we be growing old. Now I can't believe that it was real.
Guess I let my feelings take control. Guess I let my demons take the wheel. Used to think that we be growing old. I can't believe that it was real. I've been wasting my time. I don't know why I can't get you out my mind.
Game number 1 of our second set of the day goes over to the Tartarus Titans. It started out real well for the Oni Warriors to get this game rolling out. Got a few quick picks early on in the game. But unfortunately, they just couldn't deal with the Emoja, the amount of sustain that was coming through for this Titans composition. And even, Trelly, at one point you looked up to me, you told me in the green room, it was 21 minutes, you looked up and said, man, Lairs has done like 3K damage.
Yep.
We looked up at 28 minutes, you said, hey, J-Mac, he's still at the same damage levels that he was. The fact that the Titans had a basically 4-man composition for 7+ minutes of the game, we're still winning, just kind of puts into perspective the state of the game it was at that point.
And the other thing I said on the desk before the game even started was that I prefer the Athena in the jungle because I like when the Athena builds damage. And Sat said, "You fool! I'm just gonna build full damage Athena in solo lane." He didn't go tanky. He just went like, as the caster said, a Hades build over in solo lane, and just did so much damage.
He's able to do a ton of damage over for his team. Just so many times that you kind of wish that there was a Phantom Shell earlier in the game, at least for the side of the Oni Warriors, because too many times they're getting caught out into River's Rebuke, so many times that Aurora was able to cut off a path or catch out one singular person. They really do wish that shell that was picked up by Vote was turned into a Phantom maybe a little bit earlier on.
Yeah, definitely could have helped out, especially with the team fight, but from the get-go, you could sort of see what the Tartarus Titans were going for. It seemed like this all-in draft where Paul just going to dive as the set, you throw up the River's Rebuke. If that fight doesn't work, you run out of options, but they didn't need the backup plan, right? It was the all-in dive from Paul, Aurora, and then of course Layers with the Cavalry Charge also in on that dive. Hopefully SOT's got the ult for the the follow-up as well. But you can take a look at the build. I mean, it was full damage. That's all SOT needed. As Mifflin said, they focused them out once. We're never able to replicate that again.
I mean, undying duo lane for the Tartarus Titans, a 1-0-13, a 6-0-7 for Stewart. Paul even going 6-1-7 himself. So the carry's really popping off SOT. As you said, never really had too much attention thrown towards him. In fact, least damage taken on his team on the Athena solo.
That was full damage with no
Full
relics.
damage, yeah, full damage with basically no relics to help in that regard, and only having a Magi's for defense at that point, and took the least amount of damage throughout the entirety of that game. I think maybe it does speak volumes to kind of how the state of that game was going. Again, Layers essentially not doing any damage and only healing for a strict like 6 to 7 minutes of the game as well. Tartarus Titans look good in game number 1. Can they keep that going in game number 2 up against the Oni Warriors? We'll have to find out, but before we can get to the game, we gotta get through the picks and bans for the second one. Oni Warriors back up in that first pick position. Last time around, they got their ideal top pick. They got the Morgan. That's a god that has worked so well for the Oni Warriors as of recent times, but in this game, just not really able to make it work out, Charlie.
Yeah, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they went back to the Morgan. I didn't hate the pick, and I don't think that the Oni Warriors hate the pick. It just wasn't really able to work out in that situation. Possibly a Yamoja ban wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, or trying to focus out that Phantom Shell, but it looks like SOT has gained enough respect on the full damage Athena solo to warrant the ban over Yamoja. Or, wait, to be fair, the Oni Warriors could also pick the Yamoja, so that could be the call, right? Like, let's ban the Athena, and then we'll grab something different. The Morgan still could be on their mind, as it was first pick last time, but they could leave up that Yamoja for themselves. Could be the play here. The Tartarus Titans have that option. Last time we were calling for the AMC or the Morgan ban. Titans went with the Hun Bats. They're going to do that once again. So here's the switch up. Will the Oni Warriors insta-lock that Morgan, or will they grab Neilma, that Yamoja? That's the question, and I assume those are the only two options. If we see some certain third option, which could be, I guess, the AMC, that's the only thing that wouldn't surprise me.
But if you do the AMC, I mean, then that's the Morgan and Yamoja that could go over to the Tartarus Titans, and I don't know if I really like that
Paul doesn't
situation.
play mages. He's an assassin main.
You're right. That was a few years ago, Paul, where he was hard carrying the Morgan. Hasn't done that ever since. But the Morgan will be the first selection for the Oni Warriors. So once again, Tartarus Titans can just go towards this Yamoja first pick that they grabbed last time. It was a Yamoja Guan Yu. Now the Guan Yu, we originally had thought that was going over to the solo lane, as that's where we've primarily seen him ever since his rise back into the meta. But it would end up going into the jungle that time around. Now, if the Athena banned, maybe potentially opens up that Guan Yu to go back to SOT, but only time will tell as we wait for the Titans to get their first 2 selections.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if they go for the full rerun, because again, as Mifflin said, like, with the damage numbers, it was just a little bit of healing, like 5k healing, 3k damage, 8k total. Layers could have been playing anyone, and that would have been going a similar style. Looks like the set is going to be hovered here, something that we probably expected, you know, coming from Paul, how he's been having so much success on this character. But what is going to be that 1-2 punch? I can't imagine they're afraid of grabbing the Yamoja in that slot, but I guess maybe fearing the Oni Warriors would prioritize that Cthulhu a bit earlier, and also probably recognizing that they're not going to grab set here, says that they're going to go ahead and get the Yamoja and the Cthulhu, not maybe more so fearing the double Cthulhu, right? Taking that away is going to be the call, and the Oni Warriors get to answer back with that Ymir.
Ymir once more for Neilma on the Oni Warriors. So a double Guardian lock in the Titans. Well, at least the answer of, okay, well, the Athena solo is gone, which is still a weird thing to say that it was also banned away at this point, but still plenty of other Guardians that can go over in that role, Cthulhu being one of those. Ymir Cupid, a heavy kill lane for the duo lane. Morgan in mid, and now set one more time for the Titans. Likely slides it back over towards Paul. Jungle bans seem to be the name of the game for the Titans early on as they take Pele off the table right away.
Kivo's going to have to go 3 deep, 4 deep now in the jungle god pool. Why not throw 5 and 6 out there? Because, of course, you know, I'm assuming the Titans also don't have their jungle picks yet. Looking at this draft, I would say that's probably fair to say. So both of these junglers are going to have to go pretty deep in the god pool, notably Robin. Something open. I think both of these junglers value that pick every once in a while, depending, especially into the matchup. But thinking long and hard about this one, what do they want to try and take away? It looks like actually giving up on the Cuvo ban and looking more so at Nika. That Ardio pick can be hard to deal with as the Charybdis comes through. So gonna leave their own junglers up to some extra picks. Doesn't want to go that deep and taking away those gods. And now it's time to see if the Tartarus Titans, what are they feeling here, right? Because it's a completely different style of composition already. You're not gonna have a full damage Athena. You're gonna have that global presence. It's a Cthulhu here for the Tartarus Titans. I'm curious to see what layers goes to, you know? Like, there's no way that we see the Guan Yu run back, I would think. Still, the dive composition could work here. But what are you going to facilitate that dive?
Susanoo's still open. That was
Yep.
something that got banned away by the Warriors last time. Oh, hey. Stewart actually grabbing the ROM for himself to take it away from Vote, because that was one of Vote's only other picks besides this Cupid and even the On Her that was played in a set prior that Vote was really going towards. Hasn't really had to flex that God pool much in the dual lane as of recent times. Out of his last 6 games, Cupid 4 of those, On Her and an Ishtar in the last one. Now it's Susanoo. Maybe for Cuvo Fred instead. Maybe push layers a little bit further back in the God pool. It is wild to me, Charlie, that we went from a set where we were talking about how hotly contested a god like a Moose and Cobb is to not seeing him at all now.
Yeah, because there's just so much pressure that you can come from on the tier. I'm curious to see how much active you're able to get. But the Ratatosk, see, that's what I was looking for. Because it's just such a different play style, right? Guan Yu and Rat, night and day. You still have that global presence, and you still have crazy amounts of early, which I think that's what Layers likes to play to, especially with the double assassin mid jungle combo with Set and Rat. I mean, this is more in tune with what I expected. The Tartarus Titans went with a different style draft game number 1, got ahead, and now they're going back to their more traditional style of play.
So double assassin, double guardian, and then a ROM for Stewart. Something that we haven't seen Stewart play in quite some time. Like I said,
That's true.
Really Vote's the only one who's been playing this ROM as of recent, but gives him some range steal opportunities when it comes around to the objective play. Is that kind of where the Titans put their pressure? Is it around those objectives? Do they kind of focus themselves more so around the team fight, pick oriented? I mean, what's the kind of composition the Titans are running with the style like this?
I mean, this looks very similar to me with their first style of draft, just in how they want to play it. They've got the set. Instead of Athena, it's Cthulhu, but Cthulhu even more so is just we're ulting and going in. If we don't win off that, Cthulhu becomes significantly weaker. Descent into Madness is a great team fight tool, but Cthulhu doesn't have that much else once it goes down, as well as the River's Rebuke, which I've already highlighted. It's got crazy cooldown, but if you can make use of it once it's online, then you should be just fine. So I imagine very similar style of play. Just click 4, and hopefully you're winning by that point. If you don't, back up, you got sustain, and you have to try and stall for those cooldowns. So I feel like the Tartarus Titans, different style of composition, but same end goal, right? You better win that first team fight.
So press 4, run it down. Now up against them, the Oni Warriors, the Morgan back on this composition. Potential of double Susanos to come out here, some multiple Typhoons, or even maybe transforming into the set as a possibility out there as well. For the Oni Warriors, where's kind of their fight? Where do they maybe put that pressure in to try and get themselves a better chance at fighting in towards this late game, Charlie?
I don't hate their early engage, especially with the Susano, as you said. I mean, the 1v1 possibilities are certainly there, but I just imagine Darius wants to sit back for a bit, sort of use that do more movement speed, get farm online, and then wait until, like, I don't know, around those objectives. That's when I think this team fight can be pretty solid. But more specifically, trying to bait out the ultimates of the Tartarus Titans. I've already talked about how there's some high cooldowns, but their ults are really strong. If you can bait one of those out early, your team fight's looking good.
We'll see if the Oni Warriors can bounce back in game number 2, or is this going to be a sweep for the Tartarus Titans to close up that gap between 5th and 4th? It all comes down to game number 2 with Dulcin and Mifflin one more time.
That's right. This would be a heck of a comeback here in Phase 3 if the Tartarus Titans were able to clean things up in game number 2. Now, the Oni Warriors, look, we know that this roster built around the ability to come back in these games, come back in these types of sets. And so I expect a little bit of fight here from the Oni Warriors squad in game number 2, Miff. And the Titans, I mean, with the Athena ban out, you've got to totally change up some of your draft strategy here, and it will still be teleport for Sot on Cthulhu. But that global pressure shifts its way into the jungle a bit for Layers.
The similarities between Cthulhu solo and Athena solo are singular. Oh, maybe there are 2. They both have magical damage, and the answer to both is camping the lane. Like, get over there and don't let them hit the ground running. So Susano, I think, maybe has okay kill potential in SOT, especially once you take over to level 5, so long as Descent into Madness isn't available. If it is, pretty easy for him to walk out of those situations. It is worth noting that Susano is just straight up really good in a world where you can't have beads and Aegis, so often the answer to Susano Ultimate is smashing both your relics. If it's just beads, you're still taking like 600-700 damage. If it's just Aegis, you're still getting knocked up.
Yeah, it could be a good look for Cuvo Fred here, who, although did more damage than Layers did in game 1, ultimately felt like on the back foot a good portion of the time. And so Layers on Guan Yu jungle, I mean, we talked about how, you know, the damage numbers weren't quite there, but the healing numbers certainly did look good.
Look all right.
Wondering what layers is going to get done there at level 2. Instead, it's Cuvo Fred that maybe you need to keep your eyes on. We'll send some damage Paul's way. Auto attack trade. Keep things just about even. I mean, on Ratatasker Jungle Myth, level 5. I mean, not that Guan Yu's got bad gank. You cavalry charge in, but you feel like maybe more potential on this Rat to find some early damage, early kills on the Oni Warriors. You can say no.
Yeah, I mean, Guan Yu, like, levels 1 through 3 slams, okay? Like, he's a slammer. Just does tons of damage, not a whole lot of ways for you to deal with them early. Ratatasker doesn't have the fallback
on
of...
Epona.
Yeah, Ratatasker, well, no, not at level 3, but
Right.
Ratatasker doesn't have the fallback of, well, at least my healing's good, you know? So,
Right.
so Layers certainly going to have to do a little bit more this time around. I'd argue Layers free ride to a dub in game 1. Game 2, you got to pay the ticket, right?
Well, I mean, look, I still have good eyes for Sod on this Cthulhu. Won't be global pressure, but still team fight time should look okay. Gonna be competing with Nika on this tier, though, Myth, which, you know, admittedly, a cool look for Nika. I love Nika as a solo laner, and this style of pick, I think, definitely brings a fun dynamic for Nika, and maybe early pressure on the layers here. Will dash away. No blink in from Cuvo Fred, so it's just damage. And blue buff spawns up, so you talk, Myth, about putting pressure on the right side of the map. Put pressure against this Cthulhu. Cuvo and Nika, they seemingly got the memo and are able to steal away an early blue.
Just the standard answer that we've seen time and time again. Cthulhu even turret on the desk when his ultimate's down. He doesn't have a whole lot left in the tank. He doesn't even have the ultimate available just yet. So good answer to slow down his farm, make sure that he's having to struggle a little bit in lane for mana sustain. It's about continuous rotations, though. I want to see Cuvo Fred over there often, especially if it's going to be the Pythags Cthulhu that's been popular as of recent.
Yeah.
It means he's squishy. You've got a whole lot of kill potential, and even the ability to have, like, I don't know, semi-rotations from Dardes, have him turn into a Rom and secure some of these kills. If Cthulhu's dropped low and is able to get back into his tower, you only need to make it halfway through the jungle, really, before Dardes can get involved. So there are certainly opportunities for the Oni Warriors to try and throw weight around, especially over in the soul lane. Otherwise, I mean, the dual lane fight potential is pretty decent. Wall from Neilma's got great matchup in his Stewart. Don't have a Phantom Shell just yet from Aurora. It's probably going to be a little while until he decides to upgrade that one. So maybe some rotations over there could find some value too.
Yeah, how about the Rom Myth? I mean, we have not seen Rom priority in a little while.
I think that God's good.
You think in a good spot right now?
I think he's real good right now.
I was hoping for a little poetic justice in the moment we talk
He
about
just
it.
dies.
Stewart gets jumped on. Oh, it was really good in like Silver Branch meta. The attack stem felt great. But maybe there are certain builds and build paths. Normally a Devo's start. That's on the other side of the map, though. What's happening over here is a gank onto Nika, and right on time, level 5. It's hit by the Ratatasker. And there's no answer for Cuvo Fred on the other side of the map. Simply too much pushing going on against Aurora and Stewart. So it's a clean first blood and out for the Tartarus Titans.
Now Paul, forced over the wall, is able to escape there. So contestable farm will go over to the Oni Warriors, at least towards the middle of the map. Not what I was expecting from the soul lane there. I mean, blue buff spawning, Cuvo Fred had invaded the previous, so had timer on this one. You gotta know that with a blue buff coming up, Layers is gonna try and bail out SOT, so he will be nearby.
Yeah.
But Nika just playing a bit too far up with Cuvo Fred nowhere nearby. Lines up for a pretty easy gank for the Tartarus Titans, and I like what we see. Layers realizes, okay, so he doesn't exactly have the most mana just yet. Might as well rotate through. Actually, did Nika not level his ultimate? I had assumed it was down.
Well,
No,
now
he
we don't
just
get
got
the
it at
answer.
level
just
6.
got it at level 6.
Huh. Yeah, I'd assumed that he had like used it aggressively, and that's why Layers had the opportunity there.
Right.
My man straight up didn't have it. No way Layers knows that, or maybe
No.
he's been scrimming against Nika pretty often, and that's something he's been consistently doing. But maybe had Nika just had Lawbringer, probably may have been able to get out of there.
At any rate, no Lawbringer does make a difference for Nika to start off this game. I want to go back to the dual lane. We had sort of hinted at a Rom conversation prior to the gank over on the right. Now, Cupid has seen plenty of play all throughout Season 9 here. Rom for a little while, Myth. What we saw in Game 1 was Devos, Shadow Steel, Wind Demon, crit style build, maybe Executioner in there at some point. And the stim from Stewart, I suppose, on Rom is always just going to make that better.
Yeah, the thought process as it was explained to me by Zapman is if there is healing on the other side that you want to deal with, generally it's the Shadow Steel crit tree. Otherwise, you're probably just going for the yellow damage build.
Right.
There's healing on both sides.
That's all Zap said. Nothing in there about Hunters being bad or.
Oh, and he said Hunters are real bad and they need buffs, but I figured that goes without saying.
Yeah, of course.
Neoma trying to stop Aurora from juicing out that. Not quite capable with Paul nearby. Can't commit.
But the way you worded, that guy's good.
Oh,
maybe
Rom?
maybe he seemed surprised that it wasn't seeing more play. Or
Yeah.
am I putting words in your mouth?
Well, I think that Rom is always going to be pretty decent. He's like
Right.
bog standard, like just strong hunter with okay global presence. But what makes him really strong now is the fact that Devourer's Gauntlets is back in the meta. He can just sustain on wave, has a nice attack speed stim, generates decent pressure with the piercing auto attacks, and has good threat in the 1v1.
Yeah.
So long as you're 1v1ing somebody that doesn't have, like, Cupid heals, right?
Sure.
Cupid's just going to heal off wave with Devourer's Gauntlets, back up, heal off his own abilities, right?
Right.
So you don't really get the opportunity to snipe him out.
Cubo Fred in some trouble. No, it's Paul double pulled in by the double Susano on the Dardes transformation. Not much you could do about that. Paul used beads earlier to try to confirm the kill. Basically a death sentence at that point. A nice turnaround and a needed one from the Oni Warriors. Gold lead started to build up just prior to that for the Titans.
Yeah, Paul getting a bit over-aggressive there. Uses the beads to pre-immune the knockup from Cubo Fred, trying to self-peel for himself. Walks right up to that tower line. Maybe not expecting the transformation from Dardes to pull him back in and then continually pulled back in by Cubo Fred, the man himself. Either way, just a bit of an overextension from Paul. But narrow margins. I think Skewer was maybe like a second from coming back off a cooldown. If that's up, he's at least trading 1 for 1. Yep. Unfortunately for him, didn't come back up, so it's 0 for 1.
Well, Paul was good. Well, this is so often what we see when the Cupid and the Rom go toe-to-toe. Cupid drops the ult. Rom takes to the sky. So defensive utility now maybe down for Stewart if Cubo Fred feels like there's blink ult type opportunity over on left. Both Gold Fury looming, still probably a couple minutes away from that, though we've seen teams really in the double Hunter meta pull these Gold Furies very, very early on. You have double physical damage for
Yikes.
Paul and Stewart. Looks like Layers did use his ult towards mid. Dardes still holds onto the beads, though. And so maybe wave pressure and a little bit of damage onto Dardes more than anything else. But you're already happy with the type of presence Layers has had. An ult over on right now, an ult over in mid. Making the Ratatosker be known.
Yeah, just putting some pressure on the map, making sure that the Oni Warriors aren't allowed to slow down their pace and
Nika
get
in trouble.
Dardes a couple of abilities or items.
Mika steps forward into the blue buff. This is the answer. We were wondering if he would see blue buff invade.
Good
Mika
wall.
with the Lawbringer this time, able to secure his escape, and a wall plus stun from Neilma. Finishes off the chase. Stewart, though, under pressure from Cubo. Fred, knock up. Just the end of that immunity, but Stewart's going to get chased down by Dardes and Cubo Fred here. So, chase out by the Titans on one side of the map, but a successful kill for the Oni Warriors onto Stewart, who now has no beads. And remember, that ultimate's still down. I don't know if it makes the difference there, but definitely helps Vote being able to peel that one away a few moments ago.
Yeah, maybe if Stewart had ultimate, he could buy some time for a rotation from Paul to help peel with damage, but I don't think it would have saved his life per se. Vote wants to keep up his pressure. Attempted purple buff invade here. Catch a roar unaware. Neilma not interested in the kill. My man just wants the buff and to get out.
And able to drop the buff, goes over to Vote. And out will go the Oni Warriors. All right, so Pyromancer respawns, or spawns, I guess, for the first time this game. Usually the first committed to objective, but in a game that's as close as this one is, I find it hard-pressed that the Oni Warriors or the Titans would feel okay giving over nice chunk of change just for free. But always have to then be wary of the pressure that's mounting on the other side of the map. Do see a bit of a difference, though, Miff. Remember last game, as honestly, this might be a good segue, the Hunters dueling out with one another, and Stewart has to eat the stun. Vote simply does more, but doesn't finish off the kill. The ultimate back. The snipes drop down. Vote with a little bit of sustain in the kit, avoids death. No chance Stewart lives. Does Neil have the gap closed? No. And my goodness, both ADCs somehow survive despite a 2-level deficit for Stewart. Maybe should have been a kill for the Oni Warriors.
I am 98% certain that Stewart is a dead man walking. He should not have survived that engagement. The freeze timing from Neil, he has needed one more auto attack from Vote. Neil goes in the Shards of Ice, doesn't pop it quick enough. Stewart up into the air avoids that one. I think even an instant canceled Shards of Ice likely would have finished off Stewart from the HP that he was currently at. And then Vote survives because we couldn't quite find that third ultimate shot from Stu. Both dead men walking. If I'm being honest, Hunters narrowly escape with their lives.
Honestly, I think the healing from Vote also makes a nice difference there. What looked like maybe one more ultimate shot.
Healing from Aurora, too.
Right, healing from Aurora makes a difference for Stewart. Keeps them both on the map. Now, was going to mention, the segue ended up being that we had both Shadow Steel crit style of builds. My goodness, we're not just going to get this out because now Layers dunking on Neilma on the left side of the map. Again, should be a dead Ymir. Takes a bit extra.
Whoa.
And a double stun that drops onto Stewart. And Vote hand delivers a couple kills to Cuvo Fred. It's a double right now for the Susano. And it could be worse. Maybe another heart bomb stun. Indeed it is. But Aurora dashes away. Dardes on a killing spree. I'll take 3. And maybe Gold Fury to go for the Warriors.
Paul still nearby. I don't think he's going to give it up for free. Full HP, full mana. And beads available means that Gold Fury would be certainly very dangerous for the Oni Warriors. Vision belonging to the Tartarus Titans thinks of those oracles as well. But it is really just an overextension there. Layers sticks around a bit too long, Aurora the exact same, and that double Susano transformation finds value once more. Just so much pressure on displacement. The pull from both make it so difficult for the Tartarus Titans position in some of these team fights. And it's the timing of the fights as well. The Oni Warriors are only grouping up on left when that purple buff is respawning for the Tartarus Titans. So they know that there's at least something they can go to immediately afterward. And was that 3 times in a row now they've invaded it? Hasn't amounted to too much in the gold department, but experience is starting to slowly stack up.
Sure is. It's there for the Oni Warriors. But the Titans, a slight gold deficit will tilt back in their favor just slightly. And so after what was a high kill participation percentage game from Cubo Fred, but a bit higher in the death columns than he would like, off to a great start in game 2 on the Susano. This for the Oni Warriors would make a big difference, but it is slower than they would hope. The wall might not even be enough. All the damage down, and the Oni Warriors confirm the Gold Fury. You have to if you're sending Typhoon, Shards of Ice, and Fields of Love at the Gold Fury. And the Titans would love to fight with those ultimates down, but unable to find the chase.
Yeah, it looks to me like Neil's got a couple of points in that wall already. Aurora just spends the entire duration of that wall walking directly into it. Maybe go around next time. Yeah, it's maxed out. Yeah, Neilma is going to find plenty of value. Not something you're used to seeing. Wall maxed first, but Neil makes it work once more. And up against a Yamoja, a Ratatasker, a Cthulhu, a Ram, all gods that really, really do struggle to deal with that structure. Maybe Phantom Shell needs to get finished up sooner rather than later for Aurora.
Yeah, you would think. Stewart and Paul will be able to go back and pick up their second relic soon. Paul does pick up the shell. So again, also could be Phantom Shell for Paul here in game 2. Could also be for Stewart, depending on where that priority lies. So at least with the carries so far, we've escaped with Shell for the ones who've been able to go back and pick things up here. Really for the Oni Warriors, you know, if you're talking about wanting to see some differences between game 1 and game 2, the taking the game to the Titans felt like it was missing in game 1. It feels like it's happening a bit here in game 2. It is a great look, but when do you know if you've done too much? Might not start now, and certainly has, and Dardes pulls back one, but Aurora, the good trade-out kill onto Cubo Fred. Enough damage there, and Dardes will de-transform out of the Susano, but drops a stun onto one, and it requires the rotation from SOT to tilt back the kills. There's your answer. You know when you've done too much. When SOT is able to complete a rotation in and you drop a 2 for 1.
Nearly turns into a 2 for 2, but Lair is able to blink the stun, the dark aspects from Dardes. That blink's not available. Had he been put in combat a little bit sooner, Lair is probably pushing up daisies, but instead is able to make his way out of there and finds another clean bit of golden experience over his counterpart, Cuvo Fred. And that's a massive bounty on Dardes. Going that deep into the jungle, was sitting at 4-0, gives over a whole lot of golden experience to whoever got credit for that kill. majority of the kills held by jungler and support of the Tartarus Titans. But in the Relic Roundup, it's still expensive. That was the only Warriors choosing the engagement. It was a phenomenal usage of both Cubo Fred and Dardes' ultimates.
Yep.
Just put out that pressure. So, you know, if at first you don't succeed, you've at least paved the way for the next time around. I'd like to see the only Warriors make the exact same play within the next 90 seconds. I don't think that's a hard ask.
Well, clearly the Oni Warriors, Myth, have aggression on their mind, and Emperor's Armor picked up early for Nilma. And yesterday, Trelly and I saw it in a very competitive back-and-forth type of game early on in the build, and wouldn't you guess it, it was Jake at the time. Wouldn't you guess it, the Bolts were fighting under towers, sieging Phoenixes. You know, 5-10 minutes later, the game sped up from there. Maybe the Oni Warriors sensing they have the ability to do so as well. If maybe the Emperor's Armor leans into some type of pacing. Nika, from out of nowhere, pulls in Paul and gets another kill and a good wall from Nilma. We're fighting outside of the tier 1, but we're at the towers nonetheless. Oni Warriors, a fantastic couple picks in mid.
Man, Nika making that rotation work for his team, and with the Trebuchet, should be able to take down this tower as well. If SOT gets caught by a Fearless, could lose his life. Good dash.
Wow.
To make his way out of there. And it's
swing.
pressure across the map. Vote taking the 1v1 up against Stu. 3 levels up, by the way. We're 4 stacked in mid and still 2 dead for 20 seconds. The Tartarus Titan's going to be reeling after this exchange.
All right, Myth, I cursed us. Because if I'm looking at Stewart's actives, I'm seeing an Aegis. So I think I think we're pausing ourselves here for a quick second to remedy that.
I mean, to be fair, to be absolutely fair to the guys making the mistake, it's 10 years of muscle memory.
No, you're
if
right.
just going back to base and just clicking it. So
Like,
I'm not going to hold it against
Gotta go
him.
back. Gotta do it. Luckily, look, I mean, in a case like this, obviously we won't be able to use the Aegis, but you know, on the ROM in a situation where there's damage or need for disengage coming your way, hopefully on time with that ultimate can potentially delay things out, make some plays with that. Because pressure now starting to mount. I mean, once the Emperor's Armor got picked up, I don't think that's the reason, but that kind of swing forward for the Oni Warriors. A massive gold swing across the map. 2 kills, tier 1 in mid, tier 1 in left. The slope's starting to get slippery now for the Tartarus Titans.
And it's all off the back of a rotation from Nika. In game 1, it was also dictated by early rotation from Soul Laners. This time, it's just the Oni Warriors outpacing.
Layers tries to answer some pressure because, wouldn't you guess it, Stewart did take a nice chunk of damage from Vote, who had to use the beads. And Trebuchet in mid, man, so it's going to be 2 kills and a tier 2 in mid, a tier 1 in mid, and a tier 1 over on left for the Oni Warriors. Massive swing now in game number 2. The Titans, though, they want to fight back, and they maybe found Dardes in the back. They have. It's Paul with the first, and Paul able to disengage a roar with a few in the River's Rebuke, but where's the damage? The Tartarus Titans need more. Here it is. It's Stewart back from base. The collapse of the Oni Warriors and the rising from the ashes of the Tartarus Titans. And over to FG they go, down 2,000 gold.
But Dave, listen, that fight starts perfect. Nika grabs the Fearless onto a priority target, but he's fearlessly into a wall that Neomar throws up. Get rid of that! He's delivering you a free pick onto a carry, but instead it turns around completely.
Wonder if Nika can get anything done here. Relatively tanky, but more move speed. And a little bit of CDR here. No chance. The Titans have flipped this game around after what was a devastating golden experience swing a few moments ago. Now spikes right back down. We are so zoomed out. We are looking at, although some of that's the Morgan transformation, but you're looking at 3, 4, 5,000 gold up, where the Oni Warriors now down to dead even. The Titans, they're onto something here today. This game far from over, but tilts back a bit towards the Tartarus Titans on a fantastic engage. And that River's Rebuke, I don't think can be understated, Myth. Aurora tosses up the walls, catches out 3, and Stewart right on time back from base.
What do the Oni Warriors got to do to get a Phantom Shell, man? The fans have got to be screaming from the rooftops because Aurora's getting away with murder in broad daylight.
Yeah.
It's Yamoja, man. He's not spawning 1 wall, he's spawning 2. Buy a Phantom Shell.
You
so
have
you
to
can
get
walk
shell
through
today.
it.
You literally have to.
You literally have to buy the shell. Just upgrade it, man. It is crazy how much value he's been getting combined in this set. Not just this game, but in the previous game as well. The Oni Warriors are severely undervaluing how much Aurora is getting from these ultimates. That was 3 men locked in for the entire duration.
I think doubly surprising given how far ahead Vote is, right? I mean, there's got to be an extra few hundred gold
My guy,
in there.
you are massive.
Right, there's got to be a few hundred extra gold in there
And your build's cheaper.
to upgrade the shell, you'd think at some point. Now look, oftentimes you'd be able to say, look, one River's Rebuke doesn't totally change the game. In that case,
that one did.
That one did.
That one did.
Completely changed what we're looking at here. And the Titans with all the momentum in the world. And look at all of the gold they have to collect. No towers knocked down yet on the Oni Warrior side of the map. And you've got Fire Giant for a full 2 minutes. The question is, do the Oni Warriors want to fight? They're looking for Paul. Nika gets the Fearless, but Paul just dashes away. Looks like this wall from Neoma says disengage, has it written all over the sides. But it's Vote left alone. Got to be careful. The sudden dash in could catch the Oni Warriors by surprise.
Tartarus Titans taking their time as they approach this Tier 1. Oni Warriors putting up more defense than I had assumed they would, considering it is a Tier 1 tower. They're not really dedicating themselves. Neil will probably be annoying, maybe throw up some walls, try and slow down the poke into the structure itself. But healing from Vote means the longer the fight goes, it still should favor the Warriors.
Dash in from Sot. Watch out for layers. Up onto the branch. A double dunk. Could
Can't
be
move.
here. It sure is, but it's too late. SOT's been taken down by the snipes from Stu on the back line. They're good enough this time. That is left the Rom alone. And again, we tilt back. And again, the lead changes hands. The Oni Warriors with a couple of picks. I was admittedly surprised, Mip, with FG and a bit of momentum that the Oni Warriors were standing around a Tier 1 trying to defend. Maybe they were there for good reason.
SOT walked face first into Vote free casting. He slammed 4 auto attacks and a heart bomb before the transformation even came through. So it's a transformation at half HP. Neoma throws up a miracle ultimate, and Nika actually catches out Paul here. Would win the 1v1, but Paul doesn't need to give it over. Should be able to survive just by walking away. But it was like a 2007, like you seen the CS clip, door stuck. That's what SOT was screaming. Just couldn't move in the tower. Door stuck. Help me, get me out of here.
Yeah.
And it didn't come. No help was there. The Tartarus Titans a bit over aggressive, a bit, I suppose, too decisive in the timing of their initiation. Get caught out, just W keying into the tower.
Now I want to zoom out here. I think it's important for mental that the Oni Warriors win this game. Think about how they lost game 2 against the Bolts yesterday.
Yeah.
It was like, well, the lead was much more drastic against the Bolts yesterday. They were like 9,000 gold ahead. But they were like 4,000 or 5,000 ahead in this game. And so if you're the Warriors, even in a win, you're saying, okay, our mid-game fumbles have now extended 2 sets against the Bolts. Happened the first time they played this phase, just a couple weeks ago. Happened yesterday. And it's now happened here in game 2 against the Titans, where you have this nice big lead built up. And suddenly you're initiated on and potentially drop what should have been an even larger lead. Now, both teams have been able to take a deep breath, and for now, the Oni Warriors have been able to stave off a massive lead built up from the Titans that I figured that Fire Giant would be. But all things considered, Miff, it is a decent gold swing for the Titans to kind of keep things equal. You don't lose much on the map. You know, map state-wise, you're feeling okay if you're the Warriors, but you're sad that the game is now equalized after what was a good early lead.
A completely even match. The Tartarus Titans in a much better position to actually defend the Fire Giant if they so choose, or even aggress towards it.
Phantom Show alert.
Oh, we got one. All right. Oni Warriors. I like it, man. Aurora's ultimate, a little bit worse now.
Yeah, well, look, if you catch out 3 again, suddenly they'll just slip out the side door. But forcing that out and forcing, you know, the Oni Warriors to get on the back foot, rarely a bad thing. And I wonder if we just see a commitment on the Pyromancer. Because really the Oni Warriors probably feeling okay. I mean, you don't want to lose any towers ever. That's free gold to the other team, but these minions can only push so far forward given the map state. And potentially risky to sell out for the Gold Fury on one side of the map, especially with not only no teleport for Nika, but only the semi-rotation from Layers and teleport from Sot. With the burn that we've got here at this point in the game, I'm not sure either team feel very comfortable leaving the FG up to a lopsided fight, sending too many members to one side of the map.
Yeah, and I'm not certain that there's
think
even
Gold
like
Fury's
sneak
worth it.
potential for a Fury here. I mean, if Paul were a little bit deeper in the build, maybe if he had a Blood Forge, he could try and solo it out. You don't want Stewart making that rotation. He needs to be nearby to deal with the front line of the Oni Warriors. Good pull from Cuvo Fred. Does catch a roar there. Immediately resustained thanks to just being Yamoja. This one's a lot of poking and prodding, and it could be really decided by small interactions like this. Nico will resustain that very quickly.
Wall is up.
Door stuck!
Yeah, look.
Door stuck!
Help me out! Get me out! Sot, the wall crumbles and has to use the ultimate, but does take half of his health and damage. So this is where we'll get a good glimpse at the shot calling of the Oni Warriors. Is Cubo Fred's ult worth Aurora's, Layers', and Sot's? Are you feeling comfortable enough to fight around the Fire Giant? We've seen coin flips all weekend long. If you find a pick onto Aurora, the decision made simple. Nika picks up that one. Now Layers into the back. He'll get tossed aside. Cubo Fred blinks forward, pulls in a double kill for the tier. And Oni Warriors regain some life and now control around the FG.
The SOT losing his ultimate so early in that fight's what cost the Tartarus Titans their ability to defend the Fire Giant. Paul Ripcord says, all right, this ain't gonna go well. Maybe I split push a little bit, put some pressure into the tier 1 as the Fire Giant will so easily fall down. The Oni Warriors 5 strong, and for 40 seconds, it's a desynced death on Layers. Will have an advantage.
Do you just
Take
shove
out this
the
right
Phoenix?
tier 2. Yeah, shove the Phoenix just to control these rotations. You don't want Stewart having the opportunity to go for these towers, and instead, if you just show presence on the map, it's going to force these backs from the Tartarus Titans. I don't know that you actually have to go straight to the bird now that you realize Stu has left that left-hand side. Instead, back up, spend some of that gold. It's worth noting it's a one-team fight, a Pyro and a Fire in their pockets.
Remember, we so often have the conversation of Fire Giant, team fight, tower, and you say it perfectly there, Myth. It's still just jingling in the pockets of the Oni Warriors. Maybe Paul considering trying to fight while the gold yet to be spent. Oni Warriors will make it out to safety. And I think, you know, if you rewind to that Fire Giant fight, even before Sot having to use that ultimate early, we didn't quite catch it on camera, but Aurora also used the River's Rebuke, I'm assuming, to catch out someone on the Oni Warriors on the right side of that fight.
I didn't even realize.
And didn't force anything. The Phantom Shell was still around, and the Oni Warriors were able to kind of slip out around the backside. That was before even Sot got picked off. So you had these massive ultimates down that the Oni Warriors were able to take advantage of. The Gold Fury ultimately does drop. Okay, now another 5,000 gold lead for the Oni Warriors.
The Tartarus Titans gotten right where they want
Right
them.
where they want them. Warriors, with their initiation around these Phoenixes, Myth, you think they're feeling comfortable with that 5,000 gold lead?
It depends, right? The Warriors have got the opportunity, as all teams that have got one Polynomicon on them, to just go in, poke a Phoenix with a Poly Auto, back up, resustain either through Fire Giant or through Vote, go in, do it again and again and again, until the Tartarus Titans feel threatened enough to actually utilize resources. If you could survive River's Rebuke and Ascent into Madness, that's just about the entirety of the team fight from the Tartarus Titans. The only other way I can see it happening is if Layers finds just like a miraculous 3-4-man dunk to really separate the engagement. But if Layers is relegated to defending up against Nika, you've already really mitigated the opportunities there.
Layers has been relegated to defending against Nika for now. Trebuchet should help out. Now we've seen these kind of Myers been hit.
Got beads.
For lack of a better term. The Titans feel like they might have to fight out. You're right, beads off of Paul could be important. The Bracer's been thrown down. From range, the Titans should be able to work down this Trebuchet a bit. It'll deal some decent damage into the base of the Tartarus Titans. Maybe hoping there's some poke damage from the Titans that can return the favor.
Ooh.
Nika just playing with fire a bit. Walks in, walks out. Sot gets frozen, takes half of his health
That's
and
a great
damage.
ult.
The fight now begins. Layers up on the branch. Layers down. He dunks and he's found Vote, who's got to dash away. Wall up from Neoma. Stu hits the snipes. And it's the fight that was needed from the Tartarus
Where you
Titans.
going?
Cubo Fred, he'll get taken down as well. You were right, Myth, right where they wanted him. And the Oni Warriors up 5K, tickle half the Phoenix's health bar, but lose a fight and lose 2.
I'm not even sure if the Oni Warriors hit the Phoenix. It
The
was a
trebuchet.
trebuchet that did all of that. So now the Tartarus Titans can start to work their way through the towers remaining for the Warriors. Fortunately for the
All of
Warriors,
them.
there are plenty of towers remaining. So I think the threat of losing Phoenix here, relatively low so long as they can slow down this siege. Easier said than done. I didn't realize how healthy the Tartarus Titans are. They're all full HP, and they've still got 15 seconds to play with and a minion wave there.
Yep.
Could keep up their siege. Will not, nonetheless. Instead, head over towards left, collect a little bit more farm. But that's the Oni Warriors fumbling yet again on one of these Phoenix sieges.
Right where they want him.
Right where they want them. And that fight starts great again, doesn't it? I mean, SOT dropped to 50% before the siege even starts proper. The walls from Neoma are finding value.
Almost baited him in.
Yeah, almost baited him in, I suppose. Just a little bit overconfident. And now the Tartarus Titans, right back where we started. Let's dance for another fire.
Do you think this is already one of the more ridiculous weekends of Smite we've had this year?
The
Think back of
base
all of the
defenses this
sets-
weekend,
yes,
yeah, it's been crazy.
all of the sets we've had so far.
1 versus 5 defenses,
Yep.
back to back, just dive,
Because it was
cancels.
It was what, Warriors versus, or it was Bolts yesterday.
These are the Titans.
No, I'm thinking back to the Bolt set to start off our weekend and how ridiculous that was. Bolts versus Warriors.
Oh, Roar loves making this call. No way he's mousing again.
They're
He can't keep doing
avoiding
this.
the minion wave. The question is, you wrapping
Nika,
around
can
the
you
fight.
turn around? Nika, turn around.
They are indeed.
Nika,
No, he
turn around,
doesn't
bro.
see him walking in behind.
He might have just saw him. He might have just saw him.
I don't see any pings though. There are no ping. They ping the green buff.
Hold
Hugo
on,
Fred's about to
Fred's
get-
seen him.
Fred sees him now. Fred, oh no! Run for the hills!
see
Run
ya.
away! No, he can't escape. The Titans round through the mid lane, and suddenly the job around the EFG made easier.
Oh, they got Neil's
Minus
back.
1 Cubo Fred. Neil has been caught out as well. That's
Come
a
here.
stun onto the Ymir, and a 3rd death of the game, and a 4th kill for Paul.
And the vote goes for a base race. Actually very smart. Unfortunately, SOT has still got teleport, so not an opportunity anymore. 4 versus 1 on the Fire Giant pit. Tartarus Titans, they're trying to collapse. They're going for a pincer. Layers up.
Nika's just trying to delay. Look, Nika's in the
Found
back.
ya.
And Nika's with Stewart. You don't need Stewart if you're the Titans. The rest of your team is doing so much
Stu wins
damage.
these.
Stu weaving in the autos, uses the beats. It's well timed. And Dartes on the respawn keeps things where they stand. My goodness, the Titans make it happen again. And over to the EFG to equalize the gold once more.
We have seen it attempted many times by the Tartarus Titans. This phase alone finally sees some success. The complete map wraparound to catch the Oni Warriors unaware in the Fire Giant pit. What a great strategy from the Tartarus Titans, and now potentially a little bit more. Paul versus 2.
Oh no, and Paul, he's got the damage for Cubo Fred.
Got him!
He's got the skewer, my God, on a rampage. As this set deletes another target, and it's Cubo Fred with a forgettable last couple of minutes. Gets caught out over by Blue, unawares, skewered by Paul over in the mid lane, and suddenly the end of this game, Miff, it's in question for the Oni Warriors. Cubo gone for 40, and Nika just now respawning.
Middle Phoenix should be an easy pickup. You've got a half minute to play with here. Neomar can slow him down, throws up the wall offensively, immediately drops it. Tartarus Titans peppering in some damage. I'm keeping my eyes on these ultimates. SOT is coming up soon.
That's right. Look, and Sot's been chunked down to half HP at the beginning of most of these fights, and it hasn't worried
Watch
the
Layers.
Titans. This has been the go button. It's been River's Rebuke. It's been a dunk in from Layers. This time it's on to Neo. Answered back wonderfully,
Paul.
but Paul solos Dartes. And Nika with the Lawbringer just too
Where
late.
you going?
It's a great freeze from Neo. But what can Vote get done on the follow-up? Finds the auto attacks and a slight backpedal from the Titans and a good knock-up onto Cupid. And that's more damage from Paul.
Good Fearless.
A Fearless from Nika and damage from Cubo Fred means shutdown onto Paul. And there's still life in the Oni Warriors camp.
Layers has to limp away from here. Wall catches a roar. Slow, no good. But you gotta think, no Omi available. A pull in does connect. Nika can displace, but where's
Whoa.
the damage?
Where is it? A roar. Is he going to get stunned? It's a good wall from Neoma. Another freeze is in there as well, but watch out. Fire minions on the right side of the map. With Dartes down and Paul down, it's effectively an even fight. And the Titans still feeling strong. Paul has skyrocketed up the damage charts in the last couple of fights. The skewers have deleted squishies, whereas Vote has maintained his status up on top as well.
Elixir
Oni
Power
Warriors
picked
gonna
up,
back
man.
themselves, and maybe Elixir Power.
Yeah, let me talk about the Elixir Power for a second, all right?
Elixir Power, Myth, could make a difference here for Paul on respawn.
I don't think he needed it, if I'm being honest.
You don't want to talk about it at all?
I'm just saying, you could have gave that gold to anybody. There are plenty of organizations that would have done more with it, because he's already getting the kills. It's a rich get richer situation.
What about Stu? He's got an Elixir of Power.
Well, he needed it. He needed it, all right?
And that ROM needs to climb the damage charts a little bit. No, Stu has had some pivotal snipes here in this game and has slotted in nicely. Yeah, well, Stu a bit behind Paul by about 9,000, but still third on the damage charts. Need to see a bit more from Dardes, though, at 5, 3, and 6. He's had a great KDA. Really, it's been plays and individual picks from the Titans that have put the Oni Warriors now on the back foot in most of these team fights. Fire Giant remains for 50 seconds.
It's a long time.
One more team fight away. Cubo Fred going for red. Should be able to walk back to mid lane just fine, but you're maybe one fight away from not only losing the game. I did that in the wrong order. Losing a Phoenix and potentially losing the game.
There you go.
Not only losing the game, but also a third Phoenix.
Yeah, and that third Phoenix, you really don't want to lose that one. Dardes connects the stun. Wall. No good. SOT rides it out. Does deliver a stun to his allies. Nonetheless, 20 seconds to play with this Fire Giant, the Tartarus Titans. I'm not sure you need to commit too much here.
Up go the walls from Aurora and a pushback from Nika. But look at the sustain from Aurora, just
can't see
riptides
anything.
away. Vote walking backwards, stunned by layers
What's
on the
going on?
Duncan. And Paul's got the skewers. I'll tell you,
Fred.
man, it's the Titans who are winning. They're running down the Warriors, forcing them back into their fountain. And now the damage funnels onto the Titans. Cubo Fred's got to make a play, and Cubo
Going
Fred
quick.
has found Paul, but Stewart deals the rest, and the Titans turn around game 2 and complete the 2-0 set over the Warriors.
Man, it has been emphatic Smite today. Just wild haymakers from both teams on offense, on defense. It doesn't seem to matter, but it's always been plays from the heart, hasn't it? The complete wraparound on the map for the Tartarus Titans to retake control of the game, and this one I think certainly the turning point. And that's a play that shows shot calling, which has been called into question for the Tartarus Titans ever since the change, moving Stewart to ADC and losing Cyclone Spin. Clearly, they've got an in-game leader now, because that's not a call that just happens. That's not a call that just happens to line up. That is a clear decision, and it looked good.
I mean, and now if you're the Warriors, you're thinking, in 3 straight sets, we've had a game where we've had 4 or 5+ thousand gold lead dropped around the mid-game mark.
Crazy.
Happened 2 sets ago against the Bolts, happened last set against the Bolts, happens this set here in game 2 against the Titans. So something around that mid-game mark now need to get figured out for the Oni Warriors. One final thing, Miff, you're from Tennessee, right?
Yeah?
Do you root for UT, University of Tennessee, at all?
Eh.
Can I get a go Dogs from you on our way out here? Big matchup today.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs, that's right. Tartarus Titans, they are able to clean up this set 2-0 over the Oni Warriors. We'll head on back to the desk to break this one down.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dolson and Mifflin. Game number 2 and the set does go to the Tartarus Titans, and it started off very well for the Oni Warriors.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of once again in this game. I mean, Dardas is off to a 3-0 start. Cubo Fred gets off with a 2-0 tear early on. The duo lane is kind of falling apart a little bit for the Titans. But this fight back, and once again, Charlie, we get into a situation where Yamoja is just getting away with having walls that nobody can really deal with for the longest period of time. Eventually, we do get the Phantom Shell. That's where we start seeing the turnaround from the Oni Warriors. But that wraparound play for the Tartarus Titans to regain control around that Fire Giant, whoever made that shot call there, perfect call by them.
I mean, maybe in the post-game interview we can try and figure it out. Mifflin called out was probably Aurora, could have been. But also, catching out Neil's back with the set clone over the wall, trying to hide out from that one. A few different misplays there. Cubo, I thought Cubo would have spotted out, and also when we were watching, it seemed like Nika was clearing the wave and also might have been able to see layers going through, but it wasn't the call. They got the 2 picks, they got the EFG, and then as you said, even with the Phantom Shell getting out of the Rivers of Rebuke, it just wasn't not enough. The team fight, Paul on this set was doing so much damage. Those skewers were consistently connecting, and I was calling for it in game number 1, but maybe, I mean, too late now, but maybe get that pick away from him. I don't know. Could be a call.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're in that stage where it's like, man, do you really want to ban that specific pick? You know, a god that's not really a meta pick against a team, but Maybe we can get an answer from at least Paul, who was able to do a lot of damage in that game, helped to lead his team to victory in game number 1 and 2. We'll throw him over to an interview with Dolson.
That's right, Paul standing by with me after a big set win over the Oni Warriors here, Paul. Look, it has been far from the phase that you guys have dreamed of so far, but have put together some good wins up to this point, and now look really, really good against the Oni Warriors. Did something just feel different today, or are you finally starting to see some of your strategies, some of your gameplay come together?
No, I think we're feeling better lately, just practicing and also having fun. And so I think we just want to have some fun in game today, and yeah, it went well.
Dissect, if you will, for me, the Athena pick in game 1. Is that a SOT special? Is that something he really jockeyed for? Or was there voices from elsewhere on the team that really made that one come out?
He just really likes playing like characters in the solo lane that like one shot. Like he was going like book a Thoth and stuff, and so he really liked that. And yeah, I think it's just good. It's just magical damage from solo lane. It's nice.
And look, here in game number 2, really started mounting up for the Oni Warriors early on. Team fights going in their favor. They had 4,000 or 5,000 gold lead or so. You guys won an effective team fight, but I want to fast forward to what the desk was just talking about, the kind of wraparound call. Was that an Aurora special? Was that his brainchild, the wraparound?
I think he did want to wrap around, but after what just happened the previous fight, I think like most of us knew that like we're just gonna like group up together and just like go at them, because what was happening in the fights is the Mori was just like literally just walking up to a tank and opening on them like the classic, and then they just have a really nice initiative on the team fight. But yeah, we got the wraparound, completely surprised them, and it was actually super duper good.
Yeah, effectively ended the game. Look, great to see you guys back to your winning ways. Excited to see what you can get done for the rest of the phase. Congrats on this one. Best of luck in your future sets. We'll head back to the desk to wrap this one up.
Yeah, thank you so much there. And as you heard from Paul, just always having fun.
He was
and
gaming.
just gaming.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of Paul. It's just the nature of the Tartarus Titans. But that just having fun and gaming ends up netting themselves a 2-0 over the Oni Warriors. A wraparound play called by Aurora, but kind of rallied behind with the rest of the team, who all kind of had that same thought process going through. Get that enhanced Fire Giant, get the team fight after, able to win themselves game number 2. And this kind of goes back for at least Paul in this regard, something that you were calling for at the very beginning of the day, or at least the very beginning kind of this pre-desk segment going into here, was get Paul back on these hard carries, get him back on these sets, get him back on these gods that can effectively be that one-man carry of his style. Because I mean, we got down to that mid lane Phoenix, and he had vote for what, like 75% of his HP with one skewer combo. If you can have your mid laner doing plays like that and getting that kind of damage and getting that level, that kind of KDA every single game, that's a secret to success.
Yeah.
It's no secret. It's just a winning call.
Well, now it's not a secret because
No.
we effectively told all of you and everyone watching. But I also like the mindset from Aurora. It was halfway, I want to do the wraparound, but also, how do we stop Dardes from just invis showing up on us? Well, let's go from behind. Let's hit them first. If we go in first, Dardes can't sneak up on us. So that was the on-the-fly adaptation to what the Morrigan was able to do. Whenever you're able to W key at her, it makes it so much more difficult. Like I said, if you're trying to force that ultimate defensively, makes it so much more difficult to do your job as a mid laner in that sense. So I like the mid-game adaptation, I guess mid-set adaptation, to try and change up the team fight, and at least how the team fight was going. We've been harping a lot on Paul, but I think the entirety of the Tartarus Titans to be praised for this one, how every game went. Stewart really showed up here. I was a big fan of the snipes. Whenever I see a Rama pick, that's what I want to see, right? I don't care about your auto attacks. I want to see how those snipes are hitting, and Stewart delivered for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to ROM, there are two things that you do. You hit left click, and you hit ultimate snipes. If you're not hitting the ultimate snipes, you could have just been any other hunter out there in the game. So Stewart able to come out with a 5-3-4 KDA to end out his game, 7-4 for Paul on the set. And Aurora back on this emoji, man. The fact that for the entirety of week 4 of the SPL, this guy was 100% banned. No teams got to see it. All the way up until literally just this set, 100% ban rate. No team is getting it. And then we get to see what 2 games with Aurora on this god can do. Have maybe given us all a reminder just why this god is so good. I mean,
I never
just
forgot.
what he's able to do. I certainly haven't forgot. I'm sitting here wondering, wow, I can't believe they let Umoja through in the first game. And then we get to game 2, and I go, wow, I can't believe they're letting Umoja through a second time. Because when Aurora's putting up plays like this, when he's putting up numbers like that, really goes to show just how powerful this god is.
Yeah, and I imagine the Oni Warriors are not sitting there going, man, we shouldn't have let the Umoja through. There was a couple, faults I think probably thinking they let this one get away from them, right? Because they had that lead. It was just weren't able to act on that team fight. I would still walk away with your head held high, and that's how you say that phrase. Because it was one of those situations where just a few mistakes that could have been tightened up might have changed how that set went. Either way, I think both of these teams played well and deserve some praise.
Well, that's our second set of the day, which means we've got one more, surprisingly. Yeah, I know it's a Saturday, but it's a triple header Saturday today. So with the Oni Warriors and the Titans now wrapped up with a 2-0 to the Titans, that leads us to our third and final set of the day, a rematch from the last day of week number 4. Atlantis Leviathans and Valhalla Valkyries. The last time these two teams squared off, it was a 2-1 set between those squads that went the full distance out there. Leviathans were able to get the win there. And then make sure to tune in tomorrow as we have another triple header with the Bolts v Scarabs, Kings v Valkyries, and Leviathans v Titans to round out our week 5 of the SMITE Pro League here in phase number 3. But great start so far today. I mean, we get a full 3-game set from the Dragons. That puts them up currently to the number 1 slot. If the Leviathans can find themselves a win against the Valhalla Valkyries, that'll push the Levi's back up into that number 1 and keep the Dragons at least confirmed in towards the top 2. But I think the most important thing on the standings implications that's happened so far, Charlie, is the fact that 4th and 5th no longer have that wide gap between them. Now we're starting to see it get a little bit closer in that middle pack.
Yeah, I think the Tartarus Titans closing up that gap, and also, I suppose, yanking the Oni Warriors back a little bit as well, sort of trying to catch up in the standings. We've been talking about how important the top 6 is. You don't want to be in that bottom spot, so the Tartarus Titans trying to, get away from that as much as possible. Definitely going to be a smart call, as well as just, stepping up their gameplay a bit, which is what we were talking about before the game even started. This is the sort of Tartarus Titans we wanted to see, and we knew that they had. We just weren't sure if they're going to be able to pull it out today, and luckily they did.
Well, and similar between that gap between 4th and 5th, which was 2 sets, we're in the very similar position for 7th and 8th between that 6th one. Now, the Olympus bolts up with 3. Valkyries and the Scarabs both only sitting at a single set win so far. So this would be a perfect opportunity for the Valkyries to maybe close up that gap. Can they do so? It's the Valhalla Valkyries against the Atlantis Leviathans coming up right after this break.